Hello, welcome into MPW Digital's coverage of South Carolina at Ole Miss. We've got a big day planned for you. If you're just kind of hanging out with us, you're watching some college football on the TV, waiting for the Rebels and the Gamecocks tonight at 6:30. We'll have content for you here throughout the afternoon. Chase Parham will be here 4:15, 4:30 or so. Scoreboard Business presented by The Rogue. We'll have that for you as well. Get you right up until kickoff at 6:30. Ole Miss and South Carolina at Vaught-Hemingway. We'll have the MPW Digital Watch Party. We'll watch the game with you. Pete DeWeese will join us in the second quarter, as he always does. We'll break down what's happening in the game, what to look for in the second half, and then we'll go right into hand raise, guys, tonight. I will take your calls. We'll talk to Jeffrey Wright. We'll talk to Blake Kokenauer at Blue Delta Jeans. We'll do all of the stuff that we always do. We'll open a bottle of bourbon courtesy of our buddy Neil Forbes. So we'll have all of that for you here on the afternoon throughout the evening. Got some stuff, different things planned for you. If you've been on Rebel Grove all week, you've heard some of this. If you follow our podcast, you've heard some of these interviews, but not all of them. We'll replay. Chris Landry and I do a podcast every Tuesday and Friday. It's called SEC Football and Beyond. We'll air that in just a few minutes. We'll have The Butcher versus the Spin Instructor, which has turned out to be a really fun show, kind of a little lighthearted look at the week in the SEC and beyond. We'll hear from women's golf coach Kory Henkes. We'll hear from Yolette McPhee-McCuin and Kermit Davis. We'll talk some Ole Miss basketball, men's and women's. Zach Berry and I taped a soft verbal podcast yesterday talking about basketball recruiting, talking about football recruiting as well. So bring that to you. You'll hear from Ryan Brown, as you always do. We'll even bring you some of Ryan's Grilling King content today. This afternoon, a couple of different things you're going to see from him. And then I did an interview with the guys at Gamecock Central, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark. Those guys cover South Carolina for Rivals.com. They do a fantastic job. And spent about a half hour with them. We'll bring that to you as well. So a lot to come. Chris Clark will join us in Scoreboard Business. Ryan Brown will join us in Scoreboard Business. So we'll bring a lot to you here in the next, 4.5 hours or so before Scoreboard Business. And then we'll be with you as late as you guys kind of want us to be with you tonight after Ole Miss and South Carolina. Peyton Pierce asked me in the stream what I think about the line. Up to 13.5. Peyton, that feels like a big number. I'm with you. When it opened at 7, I thought that's a great line. Even at 9.5, I felt good about it. At about 11.5, I started kind of getting queasy. That felt like Ole Miss defensively has not been great against the run this year. But South Carolina's a team that is trying to figure out quarterback. And when you're trying to figure out quarterback in week number 7, that's never a good thing. It's usually a sign that offensively you have no identity. There's a lot of talk about what's going on with Will Muschamp's future. We'll hear from Chris about that later in the show. By the way, scores around the SEC right now. Kentucky, I say around the SEC, there's no games. Kentucky has a 21-7 lead over Vanderbilt. Terry Wilson having none of the 3 quarterback conversation in Lexington. He's really playing well. Some other games around the country. I should finish the SEC schedule. There's 3 games. That's it. 4 games, COVIDed out, 3 games. Just mentioned Kentucky and Vanderbilt. Arkansas goes to Florida tonight. They won't have Sam Pittman with them. He's home in Fayetteville recuperating from COVID-19. But Barry Odom, the former Missouri coach, the Arkansas defensive coordinator, he will coach the Razorbacks tonight against the Gators. It's a Felipe Franks night. Basically in Gainesville after spending 4 years in Gainesville. He's the main quarterback, top quarterback at Arkansas. So he'll try to pull off the upset. Arkansas at Florida, that's at 6 p.m. on ESPN. And then, of course, South Carolina at Ole Miss, 6:30. SEC Network, and we'll have it here for you guys. We'll watch it along with you. Ole Miss up to 13.5 on that line. That's just a remarkable line. It speaks volumes for what people think about what's happening with South Carolina, with Will Muschamp. This is year 7. They've digressed. Both teams 2-4. Ole Miss 2-4, and it feels like a program on the rise. South Carolina 2-4, and it feels like a program that's in trouble. We talked about buyouts with Muschamp. The buyout on Will Muschamp is $13.2 million. South Carolina's athletics program is projecting a $60 million loss this year. $13.2 million. And as we sit here on November the 14th, no one knows exactly what next season will look like in terms of attendance around the SEC. No one knows exactly what the next few weeks are going to look like around the SEC. I jokingly said in picks this week that Ole Miss should approach this game like it's its last. And I meant it as a joke, and I don't think this is the last game. But there are no sure things right now. I will say that I was told yesterday that as of yesterday, all of the games for next weekend, including Ole Miss at Texas A&M, are on. I know there have been reports. I know there's been speculation that that game is in danger, and I can't shoot that down. I can just tell you that as of yesterday, the plan was for that game to be played. We'll talk about that a little bit. The SEC came out with some changes yesterday. We'll talk about that with Ryan Brown when Chase gets here. Basically lets teams move games up. None of that seems to apply to Ole Miss with the exception of – that's really it. There are no games. Ole Miss, after South Carolina, plays at Texas A&M. They play Mississippi State at home, and then they go to LSU. It's my anticipation, and this is me anticipating. It's a little educated, but nothing's etched in stone right now. It's my opinion that Ole Miss and LSU won't play on December the 5th, that they'll instead play on December the 19th. That's my guess. That's what I expect. I could be dead wrong. But we'll talk about that throughout the course of the day. Some other scores around the country today. Virginia Tech is ahead of 9th-ranked Miami, 14-3. That game midway through the second quarter, 5:38 to go there in Blacksburg. Indiana, which is the story of the season in college football so far, the feel-good story of the season. Tom Allen and the Hoosiers, they're up 14-0 over Michigan State in East Lansing. That game early in the second quarter. Marshall, this is the I think this is the 40th anniversary the 50th anniversary of the plane crash that took 75 of their players and coaches and boosters. They're playing today on the anniversary, November the 14th. Marshall up 7-0. The Thundering Herd 6-0, trying to get to 7-0 that game. 7-0 over Middle Tennessee, 13:22 to go in the second quarter. Hugh Freeze and Liberty just took a 21-7 lead over Western Carolina. The Flames trying to get to 8-0. Other games in the top 25 today. South Alabama is at Louisiana Lafayette. That game at 1 Central. Notre Dame and Boston College meet in BC. That game's at 2:30. USC, Arizona play at 2:30. 23rd ranked Northwestern. They're undefeated. They're also 3-0. They go to unbeaten Purdue. That game at 4 o'clock Central in West Lafayette. We mentioned Arkansas and Florida. The Gators ranked 6th in the country right now. 11th ranked Oregon is at Washington State. That game at 6. Another game at 6, SMU and Tulsa. Two teams that are a combined 10-2. SMU 7-1, 4-1 in the American. That game in Tulsa at 6 o'clock tonight. Wisconsin and Michigan meet in Ann Arbor at 6:30. Amidst, I should say, strong rumblings of what's going on with Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh may be in some trouble in Michigan. Jim Harbaugh may be trying to get out. In just a few minutes, I'm going to play SEC Football and Beyond. Towards the end of that show, Chris Landry talked about a rumor where Jim Harbaugh is really lobbying for the Chicago Bears job, which could be coming open as the Bears have hit the skids offensively. Some of the games postponed today involving top-ranked teams, Alabama and LSU. Ohio State was supposed to play at Maryland. Texas A&M was scheduled to play at Tennessee. Georgia and Missouri should be playing right now. They're not. Missouri has 1 positive COVID test. Coastal Carolina was scheduled to play at Troy. That game's not happening. Auburn and Mississippi State were scheduled to play today. That game not happening either. And then a final last night in the top 25. 7th-ranked Cincinnati, a 55-17 winner over East Carolina. Luke Fickell can absolutely name his job, the Cincinnati coach. He's done a tremendous job. He can name his job at the end of this season if he wants to, or he can do what I think he's going to do, which is hang tight at Cincinnati, wait and see if a Big Ten job opens up in the next year or so, or continue to wait and see if Brian Kelly gets an itch to leave Notre Dame, to try something different. The Notre Dame job would be Luke Fickell's in an absolute nanosecond if it opened up the way things are going right now. Vanderbilt right now driving on Kentucky. The Commodores just got a first down inside the 5-yard line. Looks like it's going to be first and goal for the Commodores at around the 4, right at the 5. That's the first down, though. Derek Mason and the Commodores showing some signs of a pulse today after giving Mississippi State a little bit of a scare last week. It's first and goal at the 5 for the Commodores, 5-13 and counting in that game, 21-7. Kentucky was bad snap, and he's probably going to throw it out of the end zone. Sure is. So it's 21-7 Kentucky, the only game going on in the SEC right now. Speaking of the SEC, Chris Landry and I recorded SEC Football and Beyond yesterday. It's still timely today, so we'll get to that now and be back with you after this. Welcome into another edition of SEC Football and Beyond. I'm Neal McPhee-McCuin, Chris Landry with me as well here today as we get you ready for what's left of week number, I guess this is what, week 8 in the SEC or week 7 in the SEC? I don't know. Week 8, right?
I think so. It's week 10, I think, overall since the start of college football. So that would probably be 8 is probably right.
So there's more games not being played this week than those that are. As of this moment, it's Friday at 9 a.m. for those who are listening to this later and not watching with us live. Vanderbilt and Kentucky will play tomorrow at noon Eastern, 11 Central on the SEC Network. As of this moment, Arkansas will play at Florida tomorrow, 7 Eastern, 6 Central on ESPN. And South Carolina will head here to Oxford to face Ole Miss. That game at 6:30 Central on the SEC Network. That's the extent of it. The Georgia-Missouri game, Chris, it's been COVIDed out. One COVID case at Missouri that led to, in addition to some other things, we'll talk about that. I do want to get your thoughts on where this goes over the next few weeks. I do want to get your thoughts. Believe it or not, we talk football, but we're going to talk some other stuff. It's a conversation that has to start being had about how difficult is it going to be to get a basketball season in, to get a baseball season in, with these contact tracing rules the way that they are today. And this is not the SEC's fault. Greg Sankey talked about this the other day on a conference call. He said, they follow the protocols that are given to them. They don't set those. So he was frustrated. I wrote about this morning on my site, rebelgrove.com. Sankey's always very measured with his words. He's always very calm, very deliberate. There's an edge a little bit. You have to listen to him enough to hear it, but there was some edge on Wednesday. There's concern about where this is going forward, and we'll get into it a little bit. The other games that were canceled, Texas A&M, Tennessee. Texas A&M had apparently an issue on their plane flying back from South Carolina. They didn't know it, but they had a positive person on the plane, and from contact tracing, it knocked out like 16 people. Because if you're within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more, you're 14 days. And because of the airplane, they were. So that game's out. Auburn and Mississippi State, they're not playing this weekend. Mississippi State has some number issues that have more to do with attrition and injuries than they do COVID. And then Auburn had COVID issues that popped up on Tuesday. And then Alabama and LSU. And Chris, I'm probably going to press you a little bit on this. I know you're down there, and I know you have contacts inside that program. The league's not happy with LSU right now. That's a fact. Alabama wanted to play this game, and I think Alabama is convinced that LSU didn't. And it has, my understanding, led to some feelings, if you will, in Birmingham with the SEC, in the SEC office, and how they do rescheduling. Because the truth is, where they are right now, 3 teams, assuming they get to Saturday, Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Arkansas, will have made it to this point of the season with their schedule unaltered by COVID. 3 out of 14. Alabama had not yet been altered until this. Alabama doesn't, because they're good and they're going to play in the SEC championship game in all likelihood. They don't have the 19th to work with because they have a championship game scheduled for that day.
Correct.
So they've got to reschedule this LSU game. And further, CBS is not happy. CBS had intended for a long time. And people say, well, would they get big ratings for Alabama-LSU even though LSU struggled and the line's 24?
Get ratings for Alabama, period. But 10 million people.
Yeah, and that game has been so big for so long that what they were going to do, obviously, the Masters, round 3 is scheduled for Saturday in Augusta, and what they were going to do was they were going to hype it all day. Hey, up next, LSU, Masters, followed by LSU and Auburn. LSU and Alabama in Baton Rouge. Big rivalry. Top-ranked Alabama. They're number 1 in the country this week. LSU beat them a year ago. It's been a game Alabama's got circled. They were going to be able to really hype this. And yes, when people say, well, they're going to get good ratings, you're damn right they were. Alabama is a draw. LSU is a draw. Bad LSU is a curiosity. Mac Jones, if the Heisman vote were done today, Mac Jones would get a lot of votes. Mac Jones might win it today. So there's a lot there that you could market. I'm not talking about whether he should win it or shouldn't win it or any of that. From a pure marketing standpoint, this was gold for CBS. And it got taken away, and they're not happy. And there's a lot of people now. Lane Kiffin referenced this a little bit on Wednesday. There's a lot of people that are saying, hold up, wait a minute. I got a question. When we met back in August, the conversation was not, hey, how do we get these games in? The conversation was, we've got to get these games in. TV, blah, 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 money. We're all losing money. We're all losing money. We can't use this as a competitive advantage, disadvantage kind of thing. You've got to try to get your team to the starting line and to the finish line. And there's a lot of people that think LSU could play this game on Saturday. May not be able to play at 100%, might get their skulls drugged, but that they could play the game. And Ed Orgeron came out with the quote yesterday. I saw it. Cecil Hurt tweeted it, that they spent the week getting ready for Arkansas, not getting ready for Alabama because they kind of knew the game wasn't going to happen. So I'll turn it to you here, Chris, because you know where LSU is. What's happening down there?
Well, my feeling is if you can practice getting ready for Arkansas, you can practice and get ready for Alabama. Mm-hmm. Now, you will be missing some guys. Look, I do think that, look, I can't get into people's minds. I would hope as a coach and as a competitor, I'd always want to play. I'd always want the opportunity. But let's just be real here. It was not going to be a good look for LSU to get blown out by Alabama on national TV with 10 million people watching. And that was going to be Alabama, whatever they wanted the game to be. And so does that mean that LSU's chickening out? No, but it sure, it sure will be something that's going to be advantageous to LSU to not have to play it. Because you don't have to address what has been a very disappointing season. You don't have to address, and you got beat by fill in the blank by Alabama. You don't have to deal with that, and that is unfortunate.
I'm not pushing back on you at all. This is not personal. You know that we're friends. I think it is chickening out.
I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just throwing it out there. It's no question that it's not a good look for them for that to happen. So I leave that up to everybody to kind of decide. I don't know if they've got, one quarterback left or what. You know what? No, we practice the punter and the backup quarterback. Well, This is not ideal. We don't have ideal circumstances. So
we knew this. We knew
it going on. We knew it at the beginning. We knew it in the summer.
I mean, when you set the rules at the beginning of a season and you're told, and they were, hey, look, this isn't going to be a typical season. This isn't going to be like any season you've coached before. This is going to be different. We're going to test and test and test and test and test, no matter what you think of that.
Well, let me ask this question. Let me put this out there. This is a rhetorical question for everybody out there listening, or send me a comment. Send us a comment. If LSU was having a good season and the same circumstances were at play, would they want to play this game or not? I don't know. I'm not.
I'll give you my answer.
Go ahead. I mean, go ahead.
Yes, they would play.
They were unbeaten.
They would,
along with Alabama. Their motivation, and they looked a lot better. Obviously, if they were unbeaten, they would look a lot better. You think they'd be a little bit more motivated to want to play this game? I think that is a fair question.
If the final score of the LSU-Auburn game had been inversed and it was LSU 48, Auburn 11, this game would get played on Saturday.
I think a lot of people would agree with you, and I think I might be one of them.
There's no doubt in my mind, and that's where there has to be frustration right now. There has to be a lot of frustration. I know there is in Birmingham. I'm not speculating. I know there is, and so where we are moving forward is, and I don't have next week's schedule in front of me. I need to pull it up. The league wants to get these games in. They have a catalog of games that they want to get in. So I guess it's 70 games that they want to get played. And there is some schedule flexibility. For example, you could move either Arkansas LSU or Ole Miss LSU to December the 19th.
Mm-hmm.
You could move Alabama Kentucky to December the 12th. And you could play LSU Alabama next week instead of LSU Arkansas. LSU appears to want just none of that.
And that's the biggest. That's the, again, we can speculate all we want. That the unwillingness to try to figure this out on LSU's part is the biggest stain on them. It's the biggest indicator to try to find that answer. Again, I can't say for certain, because to me it's hard, Neal, to be a competitor and not want to play. And I can't imagine thinking that way. But it certainly does give a lot of pause of, hey, why don't you flip things around? Well, I can tell you why they don't. And this is, I think, universal. And I wouldn't say universal, a lot of cases. If you're not having a good season, it benefits LSU. If they can get out of the Florida game, the Alabama game, if they can get out of this season with less damage as possible, and playing Alabama, playing Florida is going to be a throttling that's going to make them look a lot worse. And you know what? I don't think that bothers them to not have to play that. I really don't. And so they're interested in how it looks for them more than they're interested in, part of the league and what's best for the league, because it does have an effect. And there's no question about that. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Spartan Dart says unbeaten, they, meaning LSU, would play with TJ Finley, no questions asked. I agree.
Hard to argue that. And
it's a bad look. I'll tell you this. It's amazing how far LSU has fallen in one season. And I don't mean
on the field, but then there's no question that it looks about it. Yeah, no, there's no question. There's no question about it. And it's and two, you had, and it's a different administrator. Joe Oliva's gone, but there was the holy hell raised when there's a hurricane headed to Florida. The LSU's trying to do everything they could that year to play that game. And if anybody understands hurricanes, it's all of us in the Gulf South.
Of course.
Anywhere.
Of course.
and because LSU's had to deal with it a lot in many cases, they were good season, good team. Boy, they wanted to play it. We come here, go there, meet in the middle. Let's get whatever we got to do. And now, like you said, maybe the unwillingness to not want to switch things around and do things around. But you see, this is where I'm a big believer in, and again, I don't think we do everything right in the NFL, but this is where lack of leadership in college football. Because let me just tell you how it would go down if I was, it would be, this is how it's going to be. And the flipping of the schedules, this is what we're going to need to do. Get ready. You're going to play. It's a forfeit. We're going to take away money. And I know there's not much money, but you're going to do, we're going to tell you what to do. You show up. It's not up to you, because what I think it does, whether it is a concerted effort to avoid or not, it gives the appearance that it is. And for people who don't know this, you started it off by saying Lane Kiffin brought this out. Lane Kiffin and Ed Orgeron are really close. So it's not like, one guy who doesn't like another guy, taking a shot. This is not Steve Spurrier getting a dig at somebody he doesn't like. This is not Steve Spurrier prodding Dabo Swinney. Even though Steve doesn't dislike Dabo Swinney, but he loves just giving it to people. Lane is still deep down a smart aleck at heart.
Sure.
But he and Ed are really close. No,
but he's frustrated. He's frustrated.
Well, I think he is. I think he is. And again, I'll just say this. I can't say definitely. I can just lay out the facts that it sure doesn't appear that LSU's fighting hard to try to find a way to play this game. That is correct. And I do think the fact that they're having such a bad year and was so much focused on the dysfunction on the team, the program, and things going on, I think they would love to avoid the ass kicking by Bama. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Now, it's not good. The league doesn't like it, money and all that kind of stuff. We get that. It's not going to affect Alabama. They're going to scrimmage, and they would have loved to have beaten LSU and all that, but in a year where no one's going to have a full complement of games, they're still going to be in the playoffs. They take care of it, but it's just, that's not the issue. I just want to point that out though, Neal, because some people may be thinking, well, is it going to affect no, it's not going to affect the playoff.
It's not going to affect the playoff, but what it does affect is if you just play this one game, if Alabama and LSU play on Saturday, results be damned, you're far more likely to be on schedule to get all these games in.
Yeah, when you cancel a game, it's not a canceling of the game. It is it's one cancel creates a problem in scheduling for multiple teams.
Because
those two teams plus the teams they were going to play that's now going to have to change. Now you do it twice and 3 times and 4 times. It's Katie bar the door, and we're going to have a problem. And again, let's remind folks, yes, December 19th is going to be used as a way to make up games. It can't. Yes, LSU can play on the 19th, but Florida and Alabama,
I
think they can't. They're going to be playing already in the conference championship game.
That's what I'm getting. What I'm getting at is
right. But I just want to make sure our listeners just get that clear and understand this is where the problem is.
Yeah, the problem is that now Alabama has no flexibility. Alabama would have stayed on. They've not had a breakout. They would have, had they played Saturday, they would be on pace. They'd still have some flexibility. They'd still have the 12th available to them.
Well, and why? It's going to be brought up. Why does Florida have to play LSU? Well, first of all, they're going to have to play LSU maybe to lock up the East.
Yeah. So that game.
So they're going to have to play, and then Alabama has, I guess, nobody to play that week. And so they get a week to prepare for the conference championship game. Florida's got to play it. That's going to be.
That's what I'm saying. There's a
correct
path to fixing this. It's very easy.
And it should be done. Go ahead and give it again.
It's move the Kentucky-Alabama game that's scheduled for next Saturday. Move it to December the 12th. Move the LSU-Arkansas game to December the 19th. And let LSU and Alabama play next
week. Absolutely.
And it's fixed. It's fixed. And in my opinion, Orgeron's already walked his way because he's just I'm not knocking him. It wasn't a very smart PR comment to say, oh, yeah, we spent the week preparing for Arkansas. Wait a minute. So you practiced? You were good enough to practice? Spent the week preparing for Arkansas because you knew this game wasn't going to get played? All right, well, if you're that healthy, then here you go. We're going to reschedule this. Let's do this next Saturday. And then you get back on path. And LSU could play Arkansas on December the 19th. And Kentucky and Alabama could move to December the 12th. And then you wouldn't have the advantage of Alabama having an open date. I'm not one to defend Alabama much, but if Alabama ends up having an open date because of crap that LSU did, don't give me this deal that the league's protecting Alabama. That's not it.
No, that's exactly right. No, there's nothing they can do. And Florida fans are going to have to realize this. Yeah, that's correct. It's if you're looking for somebody to blame here in this situation, it's LSU.
Absolutely LSU. That's the problem this week, is that they were the one team that could have done this. And then the other game, and this is kind of getting into the next topic here, Chris, which is this contact tracing thing. Because of contact tracing, Missouri doesn't have enough offensive linemen. Had Missouri not had the brawl with Florida and the starting center hadn't thrown a punch where he's suspended for a half, they would be able to play this game. This is where I almost wish that the commissioner would have said, all right, so here's the deal. We're going to move. Who does Missouri have in week 13? I'm pulling it up now. Missouri plays Arkansas week 13. I would have considered saying, all right, we're going to delay his suspension until the first half of the Arkansas game. You guys go ahead and play Georgia this week. Let's stay on schedule. They didn't do that.
And this is just the bigger issue is, the whole procedural part of this is just simple as you make the changes and you inform LSU that you're playing Alabama next week. And, it ain't, let me run this idea by you. This is just the way it is.
What we're doing. Because here's the thing, with this contact tracing, Ole Miss, Texas A&M next week is in peril. If A&M doesn't have this week, they probably won't have enough guys next week. Auburn is scheduled to play Tennessee next week. That game might have a degree of peril because of the Tigers, their issue. I don't really know the details on it. Frankly, you're better off with positives than you are contact tracing. So next week's slate is Florida, Vanderbilt. As of today, LSU, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Kentucky, Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn, Mississippi State, Georgia, and then Missouri, South Carolina. I mean, they're running out of flexibility is what it boils down to, Chris.
Yep.
They're running out of it fast. So what do you think of – what are you hearing? What do you think personally? What are the people that you talk to? I talked to a college basketball coach the other night. I said, are you confident about your season? No. I said, are you worried about it? Yes, very. This contact tracing thing, you see the way it's knocking games out. This is going to be difficult to get. Basketball season in, to get a baseball season in. You live in a college baseball crazy town. I do too. There's just this assumption that college baseball is going to go off without a hitch, and I'm like, man, I don't know. I kind of have my doubts. I mean, these guys hang out together a lot. You're within 6 feet of people a lot. 2/3 of a roster sits next to each other on a dugout. in the dugout. I've got real concerns that if we can't chill out with some of the contact tracing regulations, that a lot of stuff's just not going to happen.
Well, and I think a lot of people, I may be guilty of it too, you think the longer this goes on, the better it gets, and the more we get closer to therapeutics and vaccines and all that kind of stuff. It's getting worse because it's getting worse for whether it's a combination of cooler weather in, parts of the country, it's shorter days, so more people are inside, more activities. Well, you're going to have, Halloween and boating, Thanksgiving, and, everybody's going to have their Christmas parties and stuff. So all this stuff is going to get worse in terms of positive testing and all that. And doesn't sound like this whole vaccine stuff is, we're probably looking at summertime. I think basketball season and I think baseball season is in trouble. Look, I said this for a while, and I know I don't have all the answers on how to do this, but the only way to get through this we can talk about the SEC and it's screwed up and all. We've got to get to the end of a football season. And I really think there needs to be a hard look at this for a finite number of teams. They've got to create a bubble, or else we're going to have a situation where we're dealing with this right now where, all right, it's one thing. We're talking about games that are not going to get played. Okay, Auburn and Mississippi State's not going to get played. LSU, let's talk about how the Alabama-Clemson game on January 1st can't get played because we got positive tests. Now what do we do? You think there's a problem now. I'm just going to say that I think there's going to need to be to where you put up guys in a housing center, a dorm, a hotel room, and these schools they're breaking away for Thanksgiving, and it's virtual learning after that. I think there's going to be a concerted effort, or else we're running the risk of having this happen in the playoffs. And if we're not going to extend it, we're not going to move the Rose Bowl off for January 1st because we can't. We're not going to move the start of it. You're going to have a problem getting it in. You really are. And it's going to be Russian roulette with, oh, yeah, by the way, the Alabama-Notre Dame game in the playoffs is canceled. Clemson-Ohio State can't play it. Well, if you can't postpone it, you can't play it. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say we're not going to have. I'm just saying I'm hopeful. Cross your fingers that what's happening this week is not happening that week. You want to explain to me how it's not possible it couldn't happen that week? I don't think anybody can. It could.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of weird. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the games that are going to be played.
Yes, sir.
Vanderbilt is a 17-point underdog at Kentucky. Again, noon Eastern, 11 Central. That game can be seen on the SEC network. I'll pose it to you this way. The young quarterback for Vanderbilt, he's had some struggles, but he's also had a couple of games in a row where he's been pretty efficient. He's put up some numbers. They had a respectable third quarter, part of a fourth quarter against Mississippi State where they kind of made a run at it. Give me a scenario where Vanderbilt keeps this game close and has a shot fourth quarter against Kentucky.
Well, first of all, I wonder if the SEC's not pissed off because they had to cancel 4 games, or one of them's not Vanderbilt, and they got to play that one. And watch that Vanderbilt team play.
Yeah. I mean, hey, in fairness here, this is my point. Not to regress. Derek Mason doesn't want to play this game.
No, that's exactly right.
Derek Mason does not want to play this. He didn't want to play the Mississippi State game. He didn't want to play the Ole Miss game. He didn't want the optics of getting blown out by Ole Miss.
No, look, it might save his job extend, because if you don't lose, even though you would have lost, it's the same theory we just talked about with LSU, no doubt. I mean, you don't think it's a blessing for Mike Leach to not have to go ahead and lose to Auburn, and so now it'll be maybe one win, but maybe it'll be in less games played.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, and this gets I'm beating up on LSU today. LSU's not firing Ed Orgeron at the end of this season.
Right.
So if losing to Alabama badly on Saturday expedites Ed Orgeron's firing whenever that day comes, then that day was already coming. And ducking them doesn't change that optic.
No, I think I can tell you, I think for him and optic-wise, it's all about recruiting. Ed, every thinking hour, Ed's a recruiter. He's a salesman. He doesn't think about X's and O's. He thinks about recruiting. And the optics of getting drilled by Alabama off of this bad season might make it difficult to hold that good recruiting class he's got going on. I think that's what goes on in Ed's mind.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
The answer to the game to be close is, Kentucky doesn't explode on you offensively. If you're looking at 17 and a half, 18, I still think Kentucky wins at 17, 21 points, but I think it'll be a slow build, if you know what I mean. I think Kentucky's good enough defensively that this gets a blowout if Vanderbilt starts turning the ball over, which Kentucky's really good at being able to turn the ball over with their defense. But Kentucky's not a team that's going to explode on you. I mean, it's not like they don't have the firepower that, say, an Ole Miss or some of the offenses in this league do have. So I think the chances of it being close is just the style of the game. It may be more line of scrimmage. And if Vanderbilt can find themselves on the positive end of the turnover margin, it might take to the fourth quarter for Kentucky to beat them. If not, it'll be over by mid-third quarter.
Good game for Kentucky. They need to kind of get back on track. This needs to be kind of an easy one for them. They need to get rolling again. They've lost a little from a recruiting standpoint. They seem to be a program that has lost a little momentum in the course of this year. If you like doing the stock rising, stock falling, their stock seems to be dropping a little bit.
Yeah, there's no question that, for a team that they were trying to convince folks that they could be somewhat of a contender in the East, which I didn't really see, but to now be 2-4 and not being a factor, no, that's just not a whole lot. And even a impressive win over Tennessee is just not looking all that impressive anymore.
All right, the other two games are a little more interesting. Arkansas, a 16.5-point favorite. I'm sorry, underdog at Florida. This game 7 Eastern, 6 Central on ESPN. A lot of storylines in this game. Sam Pittman won't be with his team. He's COVID positive. He'll be back in Fayetteville. Felipe Franks, the former Florida quarterback, he gets his shot at his old team. He's now having a really respectable season, and that might not be nice enough. He might be a little better than that. For Arkansas this year, he's solidified that offense. He's given them a consistency and a stability that they did not have in the previous seasons. You've got a Florida team coming off of a big, emotional, physical win over Georgia, one that was cathartic in many ways. Georgia had their number for a while. Florida breaks through, beats Georgia pretty well. It's impressive. Kyle Pitts probably isn't going to play. The big tight end / wide receiver for Florida, who's just impossible to defend. Florida's offense without Pitts against Georgia was not particularly good. So there's some interesting things here. This is kind of my little bet pick of the week. I think Florida wins. I think this line might be big enough that Arkansas can slip under it at 16.5. If you told me this was a 14-point game, I might buy it.
Yeah, I got the breakdown to the game and all the games over at LandryFootball.com, but I did take the points with Arkansas. A couple of things that when you look at Arkansas and there's a lot of things that they've done differently. Why they're so much better, Chris? Look at defensively. Why is the defense forcing turnovers? Arkansas over the past 3 years have been a -20 in turnover margin. Arkansas. Bad teams are bad because they make mistakes, and they're not good, and then they make mistakes, and that's the result of it. They're a +8 turnover margin. Arkansas. I mean, enough said right there. We talk about the most important stat other than the scoreboard is turnover margin is just critical, and it's completely flipped the script with Arkansas. Florida's got to be careful not to put the ball in harm's way. Florida's not a really good running team. They basically can get you into some, depopulate the box and can get some run success, and Tony's been good. But if they protect the football, they'll get enough points and they'll win it. But I do think it has a chance to be a little bit more challenging, a little bit more frustrating. And what I mean by that is Arkansas will play a lot of two deep, some two deep man under. And, maybe there won't be as many big plays. Maybe there needs to be longer drives. Maybe there's a tip ball. Maybe there's a frustration. Maybe you force the ball down and there's a tip ball. And, that's where I think it could be a little bit closer. Do think Florida wins it. I also think there is something to the effect of that game was huge last week.
Yeah.
The preparation, the emotion, the energy, a lot to prove. This is not the ideal spot for them to be in emotionally. Not enough to cause them to lose the game, in my opinion, but enough to make it a little bit more challenging than people might think. And, I think that Arkansas will get their respect, or, it'll get Florida to respect Arkansas well. But again, Arkansas, as well as they've done, they've not beaten a good team yet this year. This would be the first good team that they've beaten. I don't think they get it done. But I do think they could make it interesting. I agree.
They benefit a little bit also from having Barry Odom on their staff, a guy that's been a head coach as recently as last season. The handling the game day, night before the game, all of that stuff. It's not like it's going to be somebody doing it really for the first time. He's done it a bunch. That there will be some continuity there. They'll play hard for Pittman. I'm with you. I think Florida wins. I think it's about a 14-point game, but it's got the possibility of getting into the third quarter where you're looking at it going, hey, Arkansas is only down a touchdown. This thing could get interesting with a botched punt, a punt return, like you said, a tipped ball, a fumble, a bad snap. It's, I don't know. I'll tell you this. I'll be really impressed with Florida if they're laser focused and super sharp with this game. I'll be really impressed because all the makings of a trap are right there.
And this defense, this Florida defense is, give up some plays. They will. So, it's still not a great defense, and they're still having to win it with the offense. So, yeah, it could be interesting. And look, it's the
who's got the advantage on this with Franks? Does Florida have the advantage because they've practiced against him so many times, they've seen him, or does Felipe have the advantage because he's worked against that defense so many times, or is it a wash?
I think Florida's got an advantage. Now, the one thing that Felipe's doing in this offense is a little bit different, but no, I think the advantage is in most cases it's to the coaches that know how to prepare for the quarterback. And nothing, Felipe's a good kid, but unless you're dealing with a high-level experience, 10-year veteran quarterback in the NFL, the quarterback being able to dissect what a team will do defensively is not going to be that advantageous to Felipe. That's I don't see a big advantage there.
All right, South Carolina heads to Ole Miss. This game. I think the line's up a little bit. I've got it at 9.5 for our picks that we did earlier in the week. 6:30 Central Time, 7:30 Eastern here in Oxford, so on the SEC Network. Chance for Ole Miss to get 2 wins in a row, but the big story here, really, from a regional standpoint, is talking to people in Columbia, South Carolina. This is a big spot, Chris, for Will Muschamp. If the football gods came down and told you, hey, Ole Miss wins this thing 11, 12 points or more, I think the decision might get made on Will Muschamp. I think South Carolina might be closing in on a decision.
Well, I think they are. I think the only decision is, got to come up with the money, guys. This is what we got to do. This is what it's going to cost to pay this staff out, and this is what we're going to have to go and do. And I think that is the only variable right now that's even a factor. I think to the point to where Ray Tanner, it won't be Ray Tanner's decision. I think Ray Tanner will be retired, whatever. I don't know how that's going to play out. I think it's the odds are that Will and Ray Tanner won't be there. I do think, speaking of maybe somebody that could benefit from not playing a couple of games, this would be maybe Will. Maybe he's too far down that, but this would be a bad loss. I think just like it was tough for Jeremy Pruitt to lose to first-year coach, They still got Missouri. Those are tough games for a guy in his 7th year to lose.
Yeah,
you lose it. It's just and it's not like you're playing real well. You're 6-2 and you lose it due to this circumstance. It's just you're not competitive. You get blown out. The program looks disheveled, and then you also lose to a first-year coach and maybe lose to another one. It is to that point that you said it's almost going to be too costly to keep them. So I won't, raise their money or spend their money or whatever, but from a football standpoint, it does not look good. And I think that they probably need to be getting their ducks in a row, and I'm sure they have. They've got to figure out the money better already be raised, because you can't fire the guy and say, well, we can't pay him out. You gotta have those answers before.
Let's talk about the matchup a little bit. If you're Ole Miss, how do you attack this South Carolina defense? Obviously, they can be attacked. Texas A&M scored at will the other night. Ole Miss has been really good offensively, pretty much 5 out of 6 games this season. If you're Lane Kiffin, Jeff Lebby, what's the plan that you're putting together for the Gamecocks?
Listen, I think some good quick tempo helps. Look, you can't turn the football over. I mean, I think this is the only thing that Ole Miss can't do, is they can't have the game like Auburn, Arkansas. Matt didn't play well. Turnovers in the red zone. All that just gives a team juice, gives them a chance. And I do think that while South Carolina's offense is not really good, this is maybe a chance where with a short field, if you're turning the football over and South Carolina gets a short field, they could absolutely make you pay. This is not, Ole Miss is not a team that can play sloppy and expect to win. But they're the better team here. Barring the mistakes, they'll be able to get some points. They're going to force South Carolina into some mistakes, and I don't think Carolina can score enough points. And, I just think you've got to be smart with the football. The one thing this South Carolina defense can do is you throw them the football, they can make plays on the ball. Their coverage sometimes is spotty, but their ability to make plays on the ball is pretty good. So, to my point, I think this game is about Ole Miss in playing mistake-free. I think mistakes are the only variable that could give South Carolina a really good chance to win it.
For South Carolina, you're playing a lot of drop 8, that kind of, and that's not really Will's style. But do you try to do that to take advantage of some of the mistakes that Corral made?
I think he will. Will is pretty good at game planning for all the criticism he gets. He will put together a pretty good game plan. What I think I would do to counteract that was I would quicken the tempo a little bit, because I think you can get this defense misaligned. I think they'll be cautious about coming after him, because I think the misdirection game will create some big plays for Ole Miss. So I'd be really careful. I think will be aggressive at times, but I don't think it'll be a steady diet of it. If it is, I think that's where they're going to give up some big plays and probably die quickly and die hard.
Yeah, like I said, weird spot for Ole Miss here, because I think they go into this game not knowing whether they're going to play next weekend. They're scheduled to go to Texas A&M. That game very much up in the air. There was one report yesterday that it was 99% sure that game would not be played. I did not get it that strong when I talked to people, but I'm not disputing somebody else's report when I certainly can't. So That's going to be a question that gets asked a lot here in the next 24 hours. What happens with that schedule and with Texas A&M and the contact tracing? And it's like you said, it's a big spot for South Carolina. For the people who want to know the numbers, Chris, you'll find this interesting as well. South Carolina is an athletics program that usually is in the black. They do well. They're looking at a loss this year estimated of about $60 million. They're one of those programs like Ole Miss, like LSU, like Arkansas, that usually makes money on baseball. This year they won't make money on baseball. They'll lose money because they can't fill up their stadium. Those are programs that usually make a little money off basketball. They might not. And if you don't get the NCAA tournament, you're going to lose a lot of money. So there's real concern. So when you talk about paying off Will Muschamp's $13.2 million buyout, which is a ton of money in a normal year, that's real prohibitive.
That's right.
On a year like this. So
no, it's right. Look, it's like I tell folks, look, if it's me and I'm in Ray Tanner's position, because it's real easy for the fans to fire him, do this. Great. All of you want to send us $1,000 each? Do you have it in the budget to do that? I mean, I'm not trying to be cute, but no, I can get you a better head coach. I can fix it. But this is what it's going to cost. Can't pay for it. With all due respect, shut the hell up. I mean, because it's like that's what we are.
Yeah.
Now where I think you get into some issues to where you got a real big gripe is why the heck are you? And I get all the we got to show it for recruiting. Why the heck are you giving Jeremy Pruitt an extension prior to the football season? That's just asinine. That's where I think that's your responsibility as an administrator for creating that big payoff, but in most cases, you have what you have. And when you got to turn around and buy it out, you better come up with the money and you better have a lot more money to fix it. And there's no guarantee that it's going to fix it. It may be better, but it's no guarantee. Look, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's easy to recognize when it's not good. It's not as easy to fix it. In this year's environment, you're right. It's a lot tougher due to financial issues.
This podcast is brought to you by Jupiter Security Systems. It's based in Madison, Mississippi. Jupiter Security Systems provides your business with a help desk, allowing you to get software at a much cheaper price than you would pay going directly to Microsoft or the different cybersecurity services. Jupiter Security Services offers businesses the full Microsoft 365 suite, email and spam protection. They monitor your workstations and servers as well. They don't see your data, by the way, but they'll know if malicious applications get installed on your computers. Jupiter can set up remote learning on a computer regardless of the location. So don't spend money on getting your employees new laptops to work remotely. Instead, let Jupiter monitor their home computers and protect your data wherever you choose to work. Jupiter Security Services systems offer cybersecurity and monitoring. It's ADT for your computer systems and data. It's very affordable, flat price, no hidden add-ons. For more information, call Eric at 601-519-9583 or email info@jupitersecurity.net. We are also brought to you by Blue Sky. Blue Sky believes in being fast, fresh, and friendly throughout the thoughtful layout and cleanliness of their stores. Blue Sky hopes to provide customers with a fast and easy buying experience. From services to products, Blue Sky plans to keep things fresh. They always provide the freshest flavors of their brand name products and the best services available. They even bring in some of the newest products on the market to their stores to provide an even better customer experience. A smile can say it all, and at Blue Sky, they want to show their customers that they care about them and their shopping experience. They will always strive to improve their efforts to accomplish exactly that. So check out Blue Sky today at any one of their 48 store locations across the Southeast. All right, well, that does it for the SEC slate. There are some other games of interest, and they're few and far between, if we're just being perfectly honest. But there are some. Which ones sort of stick out to you? There's a couple of games that are interesting.
Yeah, no, there is. Look, Indiana is better than Michigan State. Tom Allen's done a really good job. That is a short list coach, by the way. I mean, he is a really good coach with Florida background. And but you're now the hunted, and so taking care of business against what I think is not a very good Michigan State team's intriguing. Miami, Virginia Tech, in a sort of a macabre way, I'm really curious to see Penn State, Nebraska, two teams right now that can't find their button with both hands. Trying to figure out. I mean, this is just really, it's a mess. And I'm not trying to. I'm wanting to see somebody figure something out in this game. Then in the second window, Notre Dame, BC. Djokovic is playing well. Get some early points. He's going to be motivated. He's going to want to, move the football against Brian Kelly. That didn't end very well there. And so that's intriguing. And I don't know that I'm going to, but I'll just throw it out because people will remember 1993, Notre Dame beats number 1 Florida State in South Bend. The next week, Tom Coughlin's Boston College team upsets Notre Dame. Beat Clemson last week, the biggest win that they've had in a long time. They've got
DC this week. So hard to get kids to believe you when you're like, hey, we've got to turn the page. You celebrate like that. You know what it reminded me of a little bit? Now it's on a much lower level. My first year on the Ole Miss beat in 2008, Ole Miss went to Florida and knocked off Tim Tebow and the Gators. It's a huge win. And as they should have, they celebrated. And they celebrated. And on Monday, all of the questions were about beating Florida. And on Tuesday, all of the questions were about beating Florida. And I noticed on Thursday, a lot of the questions were still about beating Florida. And on Saturday, they lost to South Carolina. They're kids. They're not robots. They're kids. And so you celebrate a win like that, and it gets difficult middle of the week to turn the page and really get locked in on a lesser opponent.
And Ole Miss is on the other side of that too, because LSU under Jerry DiNardo beat number 1 Florida in Tiger Stadium. Steve Spurrier beat him in the very next week in Tiger Stadium in an early game. I believe it was that 11 a.m. kickoff. Tommy Tuberville's Ole Miss team beat him.
Yeah.
That absolutely happened. So, But then that's really that second window tomorrow's been gutted. Ohio State, Maryland, gone. A&M, Tennessee, gone. Auburn, Mississippi State, gone. So it's just been gutted. So, it's your folks. You're looking at a Louisville, Virginia, Colorado, Stanford, Baylor, Texas Tech. Any of those interests? Yeah, I'll be watching them, but nothing crazy. So, so that's intriguing. And then in the nighttime, we just talked about Arkansas, Florida.
SMU Tulsa is a good game.
SMU Tulsa is very good. And I'm very interested in seeing Wisconsin since, it's like we forgot that they actually started a season, and God bless them, they haven't played since. And they go to the big house. And so that's kind of interesting there. Look, there's a lot. If you are someone that if you're not a college football junkie, that I give you one that I'm interested in that I haven't mentioned.
Okay.
That's going to be at nighttime. I don't think most people, but Northwestern and Purdue.
Yeah.
Is really, and that's in the nighttime slot. That's going to be on in same time as Arkansas, Florida. But look, if you're
Northwestern, a 2.5-point favorite at Purdue. Yep.
And Purdue's unbeaten. Indiana's doing a good job. Notre Dame's doing a good job. I mean, Indiana, the hotbed of football. My goodness, it's fall. It's if you're football junkie and you like watching games for a lot of different reasons, and I do, if you're the type that likes the big matchups, like, you're excited about Georgia, Florida last week, and you're excited, probably a good week to do the yard work or do the honeydews, because it's just not going to be real exciting for you. But I'll give you this warning.
All right.
It seems, doesn't it, if you go back through history, the weeks that we go in and say, boy, this schedule is not as good as the last 2 weeks or next week, it's usually one of those weeks where some crazy stuff happens, some chaos, maybe some great games. So let's hold on to that. There may be something really exciting that happens
that
we don't, we just not anticipating.
That's the great part of it. There will be good games on Saturday.
BC upsets Notre Dame, and all of a sudden that's one of the biggest storylines of the year, and no one expects it. I don't, but that's why it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
It's fun to watch.
We got a few minutes left. We can talk some NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Titans Colts last night did not go the way that I thought it would go. How about that?
How about that? You talk about flip it around now. So the Titans were in that position at home to kind of, not close the door, but really put the foot in the door in that division. All of a sudden,
stranglehold.
All of a sudden, it's 6-3, 6-3, both teams. Colts team looked good. Win it on the road. They've played the Titans well historically. Now they get them at home in like 2 weeks. And game on. I mean, it's obviously, the Colts right now, you look at them and say, whoa. I mean, they're able to win that one at home and where they're playing. That was huge. That was a big game, an impressive game. I thought they did a really good job defensively coming up with stops. And offensively, the Colts, they weren't able – they had to settle for a couple of field goals, got stopped inside deep in the red zone once, but defensively made some big-time plays. Phillip Rivers didn't play great, took a couple of key sacks, but this Colts team is starting to play well. Frank Wright's one of the more underrated coaches. He is really, really good. Look out for this Colts team the rest of the way. Look out for the Colts and the Titans in the South. It may be the most intriguing race left in the NFL, the AFC South. I think it really is. I think the other divisions, have some intrigue, but this one may be the tightest the rest of the way. So that was interesting. This week, I'm excited about Buffalo, Arizona.
Yeah.
Buffalo team big.
The Cardinals.
Cardinals have been really explosive. Their whole key is their defensive pressure. They can be a really good defensive team, but they give up a lot of negative plays, and that's what's really been their bugaboo in some key games. But this is a good team. They're a playoff-looking team, but pretty much every team in the NFC West does look like a playoff team, except for the Niners now, who just may have been the best team in the division. They are completely crippled. I mean, they are just they have played their way out of it just to all their injuries. Yeah, but no, I think the Cardinals are really good.
The Niners, you mentioned them. They're in New Orleans on Sunday. They're now a 10-point dog. An NFL line gets to 10. You know something's pretty significant.
And, Saints coming off a big win, so people are looking off of that, but they're looking at San Francisco and how beat up they are, and they're having a hard time even competing. And last year's game in New Orleans was unbelievable, and it really was the game that flipped the tide to the Niners. And, George Kittle, the big run, got the game. If not, then maybe it's the Saints with the bye, maybe even home field. Maybe that's a different deal. But it was the thing that propelled the Niners into the best position. I think Seattle, the Rams. Seattle rebounding off of next week. That's, again, two playoff teams. And right now that division is intriguing. Seattle drops another one, and they're in a dogfight with the Cardinals. They need to get back and would basically give the Rams their fourth loss. And likely, if the Cardinals are able to win at home, if the Seahawks win, then it's looking like the second half as a Seahawk-Cardinal run. And then on the other side of the Cardinals-Bills is you've got right now a matchup of the Dolphins with Tua hosting the Chargers with Justin Herbert, and a Charger team that maybe is underachieving more than anybody, and the Dolphins are in that division race. The Patriots are only pretty much locked into the third spot. The Dolphins are in pretty good position now to compete right there all the rest of the way with the Bills. So that's intriguing. Let's see. I don't know what's going to happen. It could be Pittsburgh's first loss if Big Ben is not able to go. Cincinnati, it's interesting there. Got some COVID issues there. Going to be an interesting weekend. I tell you what's also intriguing is Monday night. Your Bears are collapsing.
Yeah.
The Vikings are playing well. And you already hear the rumors, don't you? Have you heard them? I want to mention this. Jim Harbaugh has got his camp selling the idea that he's the answer in Chicago. We'll put a good coordinator around them. They need a good old tough bear. And if there's one escape way out of Ann Arbor for him, is he's not walking away from that money. But if the Bears were to throw him some money or anybody else would, it would be interesting.
Harbaugh aside, we got a minute or two left. You're an NFL guy. You understand the NFL better than anybody I know. They very clearly have made mistakes. Nagy has probably mismanaged this quarterback thing from camp on. He gave the job to Trubisky, pulled Trubisky, turned to Foles. Foles hasn't been any better. Now you've ruined Trubisky, and then you ran him on a play and got him hurt.
Yep.
That's his undoing, right? Is it? But is it his fault?
It is.
You have to go back into the people who made the evaluation when they took him instead of Patrick Mahomes, instead of Deshaun Watson, when they gave all of this money to Nick Foles instead of maybe riding one more year with Trubisky and then bailing on that. I mean, they've made a colossal number of mistakes at one position where everywhere else, Chris, and you correct me if I'm wrong, if the Bears were solid at quarterback or solid to good at quarterback, they'd be a playoff contender right now.
Look, I mean, they could be the Titans. I know the Titans lost last night, but Tannehill's been very functional, good defensively. The Bears could absolutely be that with a better defense. You're right. And that's what's going to get. It's going to eventually get Ryan Pace fired because he was behind those decisions. But since Matt Nagy's been there, he's put his touch in the quarterback situation, and it hadn't worked. So we're not talking about a guy that is coming in trying to fix the defense. This is the guy that's supposed to fix the offense, and he hadn't done it. So I think that's ultimately going to get him. And the collapse is going to get him. You know, when you have the start and then you have the collapse, it's a problem. Look, I'm not saying Jim Harbaugh is going to Chicago. I think that'd be a little foolish of the Bears to do that. I think they could do better, but that's the rumor that's being, again, put out by the Jim Harbaugh. That's the whole James Franklin trick, you know.
Yeah.
A candidate for Auburn. He was a candidate for A&M when he really wasn't a candidate. He had these people put it out because, you know, again, it makes him look a little bit, hey, you see the Bears are interested in him. You know, well, maybe, you know, for the people that are hell-bent on getting rid of him, Michigan, it's the sympathy factor, I call it. But, no, I think the Bears are going to have to really look hard at how do they fix their quarterback and their offensive situation. It's the thing that's held them back.
We will come back on Tuesday. It'll be the morning after that Bears-Vikings game. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about all of what happens in the 3 SEC games this week. And we'll look ahead to what will hopefully be.
See if we have a schedule next week in the SEC.
Yeah.
That's most interesting.
Otherwise, Chris will give his knitting tips next week.
Oh man.
We'll see where we go. So for Chris Landry, I'm Neal McCready. That does it for this episode of SEC Football and Beyond. Don't forget you can follow Chris at Landry Football. Go to LandryFootball.com. Get all of his breakdowns of the games as they happen over the course of the weekend. So until Tuesday, stay safe, take care, and we will talk to you soon. That was SEC Football and Beyond with Chris Landry and myself. I'm watching a replay right now of Vanderbilt and Kentucky. Vanderbilt appears to have scored. They're reviewing it right at the goal line. I think that was a second and goal play. I need to update that score here in the ticker. It's Vanderbilt. If the score holds, it'll be 31 to 21 or 34 to 21. I don't know. I lose track. Or 31 to 21 is what it would be. So Kentucky has started to kind of run away with it. Vanderbilt trying to close the line a little bit here. Think that score is going to hold. Some other scores from around the country right now. Here it is at 1:15, about a little over 5 hours before kickoff in Oxford between Ole Miss and South Carolina. Virginia Tech leads 21-13 over Miami. That game 6:37 to go in the third quarter. Indiana just running away from Michigan State. It's 24-0. Hoosiers 11-11 left in the third. Marshall up on Middle Tennessee starting the third quarter. It's 21-7. Marshall going for 7-0 there in Huntington. Liberty is rolling away from Western Carolina. It's Western Carolina's first game of the season. It's Liberty's 8th. The Flames trying to get to 8-0, and it looks like they'll get there at 42-7. South Alabama and Louisiana Lafayette have kicked off. In Lafayette, it is no score there, 13:32 to go in the first, and then a handful of games. Still a little over an hour away. Notre Dame, Boston College, USC, Arizona are the two that involve top 25 teams. They overturned that touchdown, by the way, and Vanderbilt stopped for a 1-yard loss on 3rd and goal. So it's 4th and goal. This is field goal opportunity if it's me, because you're trying to get back within 2 scores. You're down 17 right here. It'd be I don't understand this. If I'm Derek Mason, I know the macho thing here is to try to get a touchdown. The strategic thing here is to get the field goal and get within 2 scores, right? 3 minutes to go. They run a little boot, and he is going to make it. Touchdown, Vanderbilt. So Derek Mason and the Commodores pull within 10 with, 3 and change to go in the third quarter there in Lexington. Updating that here on our board. Again, there are only 3 games in the SEC today, as you heard. Arkansas is at Florida, South Carolina at Ole Miss. Everything else COVIDed or sort of chickened out, I should say. No, Indiana and Ohio State next week. Eric Space Orange asked, can Indiana beat Ohio State? I can tell you this, the people at Indiana, and I have a really good friend on that staff, the people at Indiana are almost in awe of Ohio State. They know they will have their hands full. But look, if the Hoosiers win next week, look out. They become a completely different story. It is essentially a playoff game for Indiana next week. If they win, they become a title contender. I don't know what there is to review on that play. That's unbelievable. It's clearly that he's in. Did I miss something? So he runs a little naked, and he's racing a defensive lineman to the corner. Now he's in. That doesn't even need to be reviewed. So they're slowing the game down. That's a touchdown. West Virginia is up 17-6, I just saw, over TCU. Yeah, that's a score. Unless they're reviewing that the ball was – he had the ball in his hands. I'm a little confused. We got on schedule. Got to get to our next program here, but I want to see whether he scored or not. 2:53 to go in Lexington. We'll get you some Masters updates if you're watching that. I haven't watched a single shot yet, but we're going to talk to Kory Henkes, the women's golf coach at Ole Miss, a little later in the day. So I'll get you some golf between now and then. They're going to come in to see what the ruling is here. I have a feeling that's going to stand as a touchdown. Yeah, touchdown. So 31-21, 2:53 to go in Lexington as Vanderbilt tries to close the gap. So we're going to go back to our MPW Digital programming. Hope you guys are enjoying hanging out in the stream. Sammy and Blake and Eric and Leif and Grind and a bunch of people will be with you here all day. But we do a show every Thursday. Sometimes it's on Friday, but usually it's every Thursday. It's a show presented by LB's Meat Market. It's the Butcher, Greg Jones, versus the Spin Instructor, my daughter Campbell, in their heated battle to pick SEC games correctly. So we'll go to that now. Here's the Butcher versus the Spin Instructor, presented by LB's Meat Market. Welcome into another edition of the Butcher versus the Spin Instructor, presented by LB's Meat Market. I'm Neal McPhee-McCuin. Greg Jones is the Butcher. He's at LB's Meat Market. Campbell McCready is the Spin Instructor. Had a spin class early today. Just hopped out of the shower, so got the wet hair. But we're at Zen Studio. It was your 4th or 5th of the week. Is that right?
4th and 24 hours.
4th and 24 hours. Yeah. I bet your legs are sore. All right, I can't even imagine. All right, we'll talk about all that stuff in a minute. First, I want to tell you guys about LB's Meat Market. It's 2008 University Avenue in Oxford. It's across from Kroger, but like I tell you all the time, if you can get to Kroger, you'd rather get to LB's. And fantastic product. Trying to think, Greg. Last week we had a big LB's day. We got some fillets. I got the bone-in ribeye, and
oh, you got the dry aged bone-in ribeyes.
Yeah. And they were really, really, really good. I mean, I just, you know what, I didn't even get complicated. I just, with the fillets, I did the sous vide on them because people in my family are very particular about the internal temperature of their fillet. And if I overdo it by a couple of degrees, I hear about it. I mean, they try to be nice, but it comes across as direct criticism. And you're like, hey, I'm not a chef. I'm doing the best I can. You can do it. But with the dry aged bone-in ribeye, I just lit the gas grill. I just seared for a couple of minutes on each side, turned it off, let it sit for a little bit. About 134, 135, and it was perfect.
Oh, yeah.
It was great and just so fantastic. And the meat close to the bone, man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That's,
wow.
that's that sweet meat.
That is so good. We got some jalapeno poppers. I think we got the asparagus wrapped in bacon because everything's good wrapped in bacon. And it was excellent. Just a great meal. It was a relaxing open date weekend. Ole Miss didn't play last weekend, so I think I had my first beverage at about 11 o'clock. We put up Christmas stuff. I took a nap during the mid-afternoon games and fell asleep. I watched Arkansas, Tennessee to the end, and then I flipped over to Clemson, Notre Dame. And I fell asleep at the end of regulation and woke up when the game was over. So you should sit up when you're that tired and watch the end of the game because if you lay there, you're going to fall asleep. So I guess before we get started, Greg, tell the people about what you got going on at LB's this weekend.
Well, I mean, we got a home weekend coming in, so we're pretty much stocked up, ready to go. I'm actually feeding the Ole Miss athletic department before the game on Saturday, so we have a little catering situation that we got going on. And then, but yeah, no, we'll have fish, like fresh scallops. We got some redfish. We got some snapper. We got plenty of salmon, plenty of lane trains. So yeah, we'll be ready to go for this weekend. Just going to go normal hours from on Saturday from 10 to. We might get out of there like 5 o'clock, you know. But we'll probably get out a little early. But we'll be ready to go and open on Sunday as always from 1 to 6.
Yeah, Ole Miss and South Carolina. As of this moment, be honest, I keep anticipating a change of time, but I haven't heard of one, so maybe I'm anticipating something that's not going to happen. As of this moment, 6:30 at Vaught Hemingway Stadium, so should be a fun weekend of football, at least here in Oxford. 4 games around the SEC have been COVIDed out. Texas A&M and Tennessee, COVIDed out. Auburn and Mississippi State, no go. Alabama-LSU is a no-go, and Georgia and Missouri, that's not happening either. So all those games have been rescheduled with the exception of LSU-Alabama. I do think the LSU COVID is going to impact Ole Miss's schedule. My guess, and this is fairly educated right now, is that the Ole Miss-LSU game is going to get moved to December the 19th. So Ole Miss is going to have I guess they'll play Mississippi State, then they'll have an open date, and then they'll play LSU on the 19th in what will be the finale. They were scheduled to play LSU on November the 29th or something.
Well, yeah. No, December. Well, yeah. I know that they moved it back for the SEC championship game week. So
they were scheduled to play it on December the 5th. They were going to finish the season on December the 5th. So now they'll play Mississippi State and then have 2 weekends off before they play LSU.
Oh man, I guess that's good.
It's a COVID year. The goal is just to get the games in. This is LSU's now missed 2 games, and because both of them are against the 2 teams that probably will play in the SEC championship game, they're going to have to shuffle. So anyway, is what it is. Hopefully they can get the games in. This contact tracing thing is becoming an issue for the league. All right, you guys, last week, Campbell, somehow, some way, you went 5-2. It's a remarkable accomplishment. It's proof. I'm not sure what it's proof of. But it's proof of something, and at some point we'll figure out what it is that it's proof of. Greg, you went 3-4. Greg made the betting mistake. You made the mistake, Greg, of what coaches do when the kicker misses an extra point early in the game. and you start going for two to make up for it, and you end up not getting it and then not getting it, and before you know it, you've left 4 to 6 points on the board. You did that. You chased a couple and you got burned. So you went 3 and 4. So now going into today's slate of games, Greg Jones is 27 and 24. Campbell McCready is 30 and 21, which is really good. 9 games over. That means you're making money. So
yeah, when she dropped the oddshark.com last week, I knew it was over. I was like, oh man, she got on Google. She went and found oddshark.com. I was like, I got to pull out all the stops this week.
That McCready competitive gene kicked in.
That's why I had to put the glasses on this week, because I have to at least look like I'm smart, So, but yeah, all the stops are coming out this week.
All right, so here we go. Vanderbilt is at Kentucky as of now. By the way, if any game gets COVIDed out effective from the moment of this taping, everybody gets a win. So that's how this works. So Vanderbilt is at Kentucky. 11 a.m. SEC Network. Vanderbilt is a 17-point underdog. Greg?
Ooh, well, Vanderbilt is pretty bad. We've probably touched on that probably for the last 6 weeks of how bad they are. I'm going to go with Kentucky and hope Campbell goes with Vanderbilt, but that's probably not going to happen, because she's probably going to take every pick that I pick first, so she can keep the upper hand on me. So, touche on that.
If the lead climbs to a certain point, me being the arbiter of this competition, I will make her go first on every pick. But we're not.
Yeah, because she's just so much sports knowledge in her head. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I need all the help I can get here.
We'll discuss that sports knowledge in a moment. All right, Campbell, you've got Greg's taking Kentucky. Vanderbilt a 17-point underdog at Kentucky. What do you think?
Well, actually, you're wrong. I'm going to go with Vanderbilt. If I've learned anything in the past 6 or 7 weeks or whatever we're on right now, I know that Vanderbilt sucks. So I'm going to go with Vanderbilt here.
So you're going to take the 17 points. It is a big line, but we'll see. All right, we go into the Big Ten now because, well, the SEC let us down. So that we're going to go to the Big Ten for a few games here. Indiana is at Michigan State. We picked the Hoosiers game last week. They won, and they have become really one of the fun stories in all of college football. Indiana is a 7.5-point favorite at Michigan State. That game at 11 a.m. You can watch it on ABC. Campbell, you're up.
I'm going to go with Indiana just because last week we talked about my friend from middle school. Her dad's the coach. And it seems that usually when I pick a team based off someone that I know, it usually works for me. So we're going to go with Indiana here.
Yeah, I talked to Greg. You probably are familiar with Kane Womack. I talked to Kane, the defensive coordinator at Indiana. I guess we talked on Sunday or Monday after the game because they showed him on TV a lot. And I was telling him, I'm like, man, I'm cheering for you guys. I'm like legitimately into your games. And so he's like, yeah, I'm going to send you some Indiana swag because I have all this Iowa swag behind me on the thing, and I've never even been to the state of Iowa. So he's going to send me some Indiana stuff. He's trying to sway my Big Ten allegiances from the Hawkeyes to the Hoosiers. So what do you got?
I know Michigan State laid a big egg last week against Iowa, and that's not a good performance, but we'll have to take a chance on them. We'll see if Indiana slips up this week after the big win against Michigan. So I'm going to go with Michigan State here, see if the other team from Michigan has better luck against Indiana this week.
I feel like we're on the gambling crazy horse right now. We're just all over the place. Campbell says, Vanderbilt sucks, so I'm going to take them. And then Greg says, Michigan State got just slaughtered last week, so I'm going to roll with them. Okay, that's why we have the competition. All right, staying in the Big Ten, Illinois heads to Rutgers. Illinois is a 6.5-point underdog heading to Rutgers. The game at 11 Central on the Big Ten Network. Greg, you're up.
Oh, man, two really bad teams. I think Rutgers scored something like 20 some odd points against Ohio State. Maybe that was against their, third or fourth string. But I know Illinois is a disaster right now. Lovie Smith, he's a great coach, good guy, but, I don't think he's going to get it done. So I'm going to go with Rutgers this week. Rutgers.
All right. Greg takes Rutgers and lays the points. Campbell, what do you think?
I don't even know what Rutgers is or like where that is. What is it?
It is essentially the University of New Jersey. It is in Piscataway, New Jersey.
All right. Well, I didn't know anything about it until Greg just finished talking. I was going to pick Illinois, but I'm going to stick with it. I just we drove to Chicago like years ago. I think I was like a sophomore in high school, and my dad made us stop at the Illinois Stadium to take pictures. So, I don't know. I'm going to go with them.
In Champaign, Illinois.
I'm a stadium freak. I love stadiums. Like, I once had a 9-hour layover in Detroit, and I left the airport, took a cab to go see Old Tiger Stadium.
Oh, wow.
I just like stadiums. And so we were passing through, and I was like, let's go check out the stadium, and it was locked. But I found a way to kind of get into it. And so Carson and I broke into the stadium, and they saw us. They left us alone. We were just in the stands taking pictures. But it was cold. It was a pretty day. It's a cool stadium. I liked it. It was nice.
Yeah, it's old school. I mean, I went to old Yankee Stadium before they turned it into a parking lot. So it was it wasn't the greatest, but it was just old school concrete, bleachers. I mean, if you lean forward, you might go forward. So it was like, but yeah, the old Tiger Stadium was very similar to that. Now, that was why I became a big Detroit Tigers fan, because growing up, I wanted to be like Cecil Fielder. I wanted to hit it out of the stadium because he would hit it out of the stadium. And but I was left-handed and short. Good swing, but I always pretended to be like Cecil Fielder and do the big leg kick and the rock back and everything like that. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I became a Tigers fan. I just like the old school, and Sparky Anderson was the coach. So, but yeah, good stuff there.
And the best uniforms in baseball, the Tiger home uniform, best uniform in baseball. It's awesome. All right, Notre Dame is at Boston College. We've stuck with the Irish a lot this year. They knock off Clemson last week. Notre Dame now a 13.5-point favorite at Boston College. This game 2:30 Central on ABC. Campbell, you're up.
As we know, every time I pick Notre Dame, it really seems to work for me. So I'm going to go with them again. Also, I saw on Twitter the little video of them going on the field after they won. That looked like a lot of fun. So, maybe they'll win again and they can do it again. So
yeah, they got shamed. It was not the best look for the media on Saturday. Literally the same media who criticized the Notre Dame students for celebrating a huge win for the school, for the program. The same people earlier in the day were saying how great it was that people were out in the streets celebrating Joe Biden's victory.
Yeah, so
my opinion is celebrate everything. If you want to celebrate Biden winning, awesome, do it. Great. It's an emotional election. Your guy won, celebrate. But you can't then turn around and make fun of kids at Notre Dame celebrating their team knocking off Clemson in double overtime and having an excited moment. It can't be both. You can either criticize both or both are okay. You can't pick unless you think the virus is smart enough to differentiate, at which point we're all going to die. So it's really that simple. All right, Greg, she's got Notre Dame. What do you think?
I like Boston College. I mean, the home bow wow here. Let's roll with it. So let's see I know the emotions and the corona probably took over Notre Dame's campus last weekend. So I don't even know if Notre Dame's going to be able to fill a team out with all that gathering after the big victory. So I'm going to go with Boston College here. I like it.
Greg takes the Golden Eagles and a super spreader. So that's what he's hoping for. All right, now we go out west a little bit. USC, the Trojans are a 14-point favorite at Arizona. This game 2:30 Central. You can watch it on Fox. Let's see, whose turn is it? It's Greg's turn, right? Mm-hmm. Yep, Greg, you're up. Trojans.
Well, it seemed like USC had some trouble last weekend with Arizona State, and maybe it just might be an Arizona thing. You know, Arizona's kind of hard to crack right now, even with the election and football team. So I'm going to go with the hard cracking Arizona team. Let's go with that with the points.
All right, so Greg gets the 14 points. Campbell, what do you think?
You know, I don't know anything about these two teams.
Do you know USC's colors? Would you know USC's uniforms if you saw them? They have
blue and yellow, blue and gold.
No, they're kind of red and gold.
Oh, okay.
They have great.
The only thing I know about USC is that what's her name? She played the aunt in Full House.
Oh, Aunt Becky.
Aunt Becky, she like that whole scandal with her daughters.
Yeah,
like,
that was USC getting them into like the USC rowing team or something.
Yeah, she got them to take pictures like pretending to like be on the rowing team or whatever or something. And it would like I think the youngest daughter, her name's Olivia, she was like a sophomore and they had just found out about it and she dropped out of school. And
was it Lori Loughlin? Is that who that was?
Yep,
yeah.
Lori Loughlin. Mm-hmm.
I covered a game at USC once. It was years ago. Auburn played there, and when I was covering Auburn, and they played that fight song from the first
all the time.
And man, the next day in the airplane, I was still humming that song with myself. Yeah. You just hear it over and over and over. It's a cool. That was a fun place to go to a game. And just on and on and on. Awesome. And they bring
and like during the plays, they soft play it. You know, they soft play it during the plays, and then whenever like the defense makes a stop, they'll go back to
as soon as the offense goes out, it's it's awesome. I loved it. It was so
I love it too.
It was so cool. And from my seat, you could see the Hollywood sign and all of that stuff, and the Traveler, the White Horse, and the Song Girls with the whole deal. It was awesome. I loved it. It was a great game, too. It turns out USC was like on the cusp of like really being awesome because they had Reggie Bush and Carson Palmer and all those cats. They were good. All right. So let's see. Campbell, you took.
I don't even think I ever decided.
She was bringing the Aunt Becky angle into it. So that's.
I'm gonna go. I was bringing the Aunt Becky. And
you're gonna go with Aunt Becky and the Trojans?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's SMU is a 2.5 point underdog at Tulsa. Two teams that are actually pretty good. 6 p.m. on ESPN2. Campbell, you are up.
I'm going to go with Tulsa. We have family there. My second cousin, does that make him your cousin?
He's my first cousin, Mike. Mm-hmm.
He's the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Tulsa.
Yep.
And all my friends actually last like February or something, we all decided just for a Saturday we were going to drive to Tulsa. And I DM'd him on Instagram and I was like, hey, can we stop by and say, hey, I'm in Tulsa? And so all my friends, we have like a picture with him and everything. So I'm going to go with Tulsa here.
All right. So she's taking Tulsa and laying the 2.5. Greg, what do you think?
Man, after listening to that, I literally want to drive to Tunica and put some money on Tulsa. I mean, that's just,
it's almost automatic.
I mean, it's really automatic. With that being said,
my picks seem to be working for me. So
that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm driving to Tunica here. With that being said, I'm going to go with the SMU Mustangs. They played a good game last week against Temple, and they're playing some good ball. Let's go with the SMU Mustangs here.
Yeah, that's actually a sneaky good game, SMU and Tulsa. That's not a bad football game at all. That will not be the game that's on all the TV screens in Fayetteville, though. Arkansas will be at Florida. The Hogs get a big win over Tennessee last week. Florida gets a big win over Georgia. Wow, they just popped Georgia just impressively. Florida's got some injury issues. Arkansas, as Campbell learned before we started the show, is without its head coach. Sam Pittman has COVID-19. He will not be on the trip to Gainesville. He'll be back in Fayetteville in isolation, locked away in a cold, dark room, protected from everyone and protecting himself from everyone there in Fayetteville. Thoughts and prayers to everyone there, anywhere in the vicinity of the Pittman home. All right, so Arkansas is a 16.5-point underdog at Florida. Greg, what do you think?
I'm going to have to go here. I'm not going to I like Arkansas. You know, I know that Florida had a big week last week against Georgia, and they hadn't beat Georgia in a hot minute. So that's, you know, kind of an emotional win for them. It's a lot of points with the Arkansas, but we'll see the true Arkansas come out this week and when Florida beats them by about 30. So we'll go with the Gators here.
Wow, some trash talk there. So he's going to lay the 16.5 on your Razorbacks, Campbell. I have a feeling you're going to go the other way.
Well, I'm going to go the other way because I'd feel bad not. But, you know, I'm going to pick Arkansas. I know we're going to lose, but I just feel like I don't feel right picking the other team.
That's
so
fair.
I'm going to pick Arkansas. Last weekend was fun with the win. I watched it in my room here in Kaya. Wish I was at the game, though, because it looked like so much fun. Everybody was, like, at the end of the game on my TV screen. They were all, like, running to the bottom of the student section. So it looked like fun. But, you know, I'm going to pick Arkansas just because I feel bad not picking them. Yeah,
two teams last week that Arkansas and Florida had big emotional wins, kind of cathartic wins. Arkansas had not beaten Tennessee in a long time, too. So that was a big win for them. That was you're right. It was a fun game to watch. Sam Pittman's done a great job up there, and Dan Mullen is a terrific coach. Everybody in Mississippi hates him, but he's a hell of a good coach, and he's got the Gators rolling. All right, the game here in Oxford, South Carolina heads to Ole Miss. It's a 6:30 kick as of now on the SEC Network. South Carolina is a 9.5 point underdog at Ole Miss. Ole Miss had last weekend off. South Carolina was absolutely destroyed by Texas A&M. Man, that was ugly. One of the ugliest SEC games not involving Vanderbilt I've seen in a long time. Campbell, what do you think?
I'm going to pick Ole Miss. I said, like, I don't remember, like, maybe the third week how much I liked Columbia, but I actually hope Ole Miss wins this week, so I'm going to go with them.
All right, Greg?
I'm going to have to agree with her. She's on top of her pick. She knows her stuff. So, I mean, I'm just going to casually go with her, and we might do the Tulsa Ole Miss parlay, when we head to Tunica today.
You should. All right, one last one. We go back out west. This will be the late game. Utah is a 3.5 point favorite at UCLA. This game in the completely empty Rose Bowl. 9:30 Central Time, so 7:30 out there on the West Coast. You can watch this game on Fox. Let's see, Greg, it's your turn.
Man, it would be so weird to see that picture overhead of a football game being played at an empty Rose Bowl. That's one of the best stadiums in the country, I think. I'm going to have to go with Utah here. UCLA looked bad last week as a 6.5 point favorite against Colorado and actually lost the game. So, Jim Moore Jr. might, not have the right spice there, but we're going to go with Utah. I like Utah's coach. He's a good one. I like it. Let's go Utah.
Greg's going with the Utes, laying the 3.5. Campbell, what do you think?
I'm going to agree with him and go with Utah. We went to California, I don't remember.
2 years ago.
2 or 3 years ago, and we kind of took a college tour of UCLA.
Yeah, we did.
And I hated Los Angeles so much. So we'll never go back. So I'm going to go with Utah for that reason.
Isn't that funny? Because the girls, Greg, were so excited about getting to go to Los Angeles and Hollywood and all that stuff. And they got out there and this sucks.
Well, a homeless man. It was the first night. We had left the hotel. It was just me, you, and Caroline Carson.
Yeah, in Santa Monica.
We went to that outdoor shopping area, and this homeless man came and waved in my face really up close, and it freaked me out. So I was freaked out the rest of the trip.
Yeah, I've never been to Los Angeles. I think I'm going to take a big X on that. As much as I'd like to go to, Napa Valley and get some, wines and do that sort of thing. But I do need to go and knock off Oakland and San Francisco on the stadium, on my MLB stadium tour. So I don't know.
I like San Francisco. We could have just stayed there the whole time and I would have been happy.
Yeah, I like NorCal. I don't like SoCal much. Now, San Diego's pretty cool, but LA, I don't like it. I like Monterey and Big Sur and that area. It's kind of
it's kind of open.
Yeah, it's kind of open. It's kind of hippie a little bit, but I like it.
Also, I could have just done that the whole time and I would have had fun. But
Yeah,
LA.
and I love, like, once you go to Sausalito and Tiburon and up into Napa and all that, that's my jam right there. I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, see, I'd like to do that for sure. I just, I'm not about to sit on an interstate or a freeway or whatever they call it and look at the back of a car for 30, 45 minutes. That sounds brutal.
San Francisco, from a stadium tour standpoint, where the Giants play, I guess it's still AT&T. I don't know who the corporate sponsor is now, but that's a cool park. It's one of the really underrated ballparks in the country. That one and Pittsburgh, I think, are my two favorite ones.
Yeah, because they're on the river or on the bay, either way.
Yeah.
I heard the Nashville, they were trying to do a baseball stadium on the river in Nashville and trying to get an MLB team there. That would be a pretty cool setup.
Yeah, I think Nashville needs to have a Major League Baseball team. I know Cincinnati and Atlanta would probably push back because of proximity, but Nashville's grown so much that it could support big league teams. There's talk about the Raptors because of the COVID thing, the Raptors playing this season in Nashville.
That'd be cool.
That might be Nashville's opportunity to show that it could support an NBA franchise.
So would they be the Nashville Raptors?
I guess they'd still be the Toronto Raptors. It'd probably be like that year. If you remember a long way back when Katrina crushed New Orleans, and the New Orleans team played in Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma, yeah.
And then Oklahoma City proved they could support a NBA team, and then boom, the Sonics moved to Oklahoma City. And so it could be history repeating itself. This could be Nashville's opportunity to babysit a franchise and then get one of their own. So, all right, that does it for this episode. Let's see, Greg, real quick before we go, how do people get in touch with you? I know it's 2008 University Avenue in Oxford, 662-259-2999, I believe is the number.
Yep. We got some traffic issues going on because they're doing the light right across, doing some road work. So hopefully they got that done in the next, probably today would be great. But there's some traffic issues going on. But, we're right across the street from Kroger, and we'll get you taken care of, no problems.
Big party plans this weekend in Fayetteville, or are we getting close to finals where you have to study?
No, I'm not really getting close to finals, and honestly, I don't really have that many, but I have sociology, which, isn't really hard. But no, I think it's just going to be a relaxing weekend in Fayetteville, and then the next weekend I get to come home. So
awesome.
Have we had any themes at the Zen spin class this week? Anything new themes?
I'm doing Hannah Montana next week on Wednesday.
Which is Miley Cyrus, right? Right, that's Miley Cyrus.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. I figured that out last week. That was good news.
Good to learn.
Yeah.
All right, we will get back together next week and see where we stand. There's going to be a shakeup somehow, some way, because you guys are only on the same page on maybe Ole Miss and
like 2 games.
Yeah, 2 games. Ole Miss and Utah, y'all are on the same page, and that's about it. So there's going to be some wins and losses. We'll have to see how that shakes out. So
if I'd have known about that Los Angeles experience, I'd have definitely been on UCLA.
Well, it's too late.
Too late now. This is your last chance to switch. I'll let you switch right here.
No. It's fine. We'll stick together on Utah.
All right. So we'll stick together on the Utes and the Rebels and see how it all shakes out everywhere else. So that does it for this edition of the Butcher versus the Spin Instructor, presented by LB's Meat Market. We'll be back next Thursday. Until then, everybody have a great weekend. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon. So that's fun always. I always enjoy that show. It's kind of something I look forward to every Thursday morning. We tape it around 9 o'clock on Thursday, and Greg and Campbell get on the Zoom. And for me, it's just kind of fun to hang out with her, and it's kind of a fun thing, end of a week. You've written about football. It's time to sort of get a little silly about it, and I enjoy that show. It's 31-21. Kentucky is ahead of Vanderbilt. Fourth quarter, Vanderbilt, signs of life. Virginia Tech leads Miami 24-19, about 10.5 to go there in Blacksburg. Indiana continues to hold a 24-0 lead over Michigan State. That game now in the fourth quarter as well. Marshall up on Middle Tennessee, 35-14 late in the third. Liberty leads Western Carolina 55-14 in the fourth. Louisiana Lafayette has a 14-3 lead over South Alabama after one quarter. So that's what's going on in college football right now. I was looking at a couple of Big Ten scores because we had some Big Ten games in the picks. Nebraska leads Penn State 27-16. That game 30-16 now. 10:34 to go in the fourth quarter. James Franklin, man, it's not been a good year for him. He was a guy who thought he was going to have some rising stock. The Nittany Lions on their way to 0-4. Be a big win for Scott Frost and the Huskers. 30-16, 10:34 to go. There in Lincoln, Rutgers leads Illinois 13-7. That game at the half. Northwestern and Purdue play later, as do Wisconsin and Michigan. So, in the event that you were looking for a Big Ten update, there it is. I'm trying to get you some Masters updates if I can find it here on the site, and I'm struggling with it, to be honest with you. You can tell I don't watch a lot of golf at all. Let's see. Live from the Masters. Let me get you an update. Dustin Johnson is in the lead, 14 under. He has a 3-shot lead over Answer and Thomas. M and Fratelli are both 4 shots back of the lead right now. Third round in progress at Augusta National, which was pretty cool locale this morning for ESPN Game Day. Cole says that he was just reprimanded in Oxford for wearing his mask while standing. So you had the mask on, but you were standing up. So you got reprimanded for standing with. People get mad at me when I do this. Everybody's just lost their minds. Kentucky just scores. It'll be 38-21 after the PAT with 9:14 to go in Lexington. I don't understand some of the rules. I really don't. It has become in Oxford, and I don't even want to get in a bad mood. It has become in Oxford a virtue signal sort of a thing. There's just no other way to put it. That's what it is. It is you show how much you care, and you show how compassionate you are, how empathetic you are via mask wearing, even in places where a mask makes no real sense. Oh, you were not wearing your mask and you stood up. Yeah, boy, you'll get jumped. You'll get jumped. There's no. So last night I went to the Oxford. Who'd they play? Isn't that crazy? Can't even remember who they played. Played a hell of a game. Madison Central. I went to the Oxford-Madison Central game. It was a great game. Madison Central went for 2 to send it to overtime at the end and didn't get it. It was a great high school football game. But I would put my mask on to like go to the restroom or whatever. And then when I got back to my seat, there's no one around me except for Laura. And I would take my mask off. And some people would come up the steps. Some people didn't think anything of it. You could tell some people were like, I can't believe you're not wearing a mask. And some people never take their mask off no matter what. And some people are not wearing their mask. And it's just, I don't know, the whole thing. You have to wear a mask to get in the stadium, the high school stadium. But once you get in, you can take it off. You can't go down to like the fence and talk to the kids that are on the cheerleader squad or the dance squad or whatnot. They're not allowed to talk to you, even though you live in the same home with them. They're not allowed to talk to you in person. It's just there's all sorts of rules, and a lot of the rules don't make sense. Anyway, third round of the Masters is going on right now. Earlier this week, Kory Henkes, who has done a phenomenal job at Ole Miss with the women's golf program. She's a South Carolina grad. She taught to Chase Parham about all of those things, especially her program and how it's gotten to where it is today. So here is that interview with Chase and Kory.
Ole Miss women's golf coach Kory Henkes joining us now on the Raptors Music and Food Hotline. Kory, thanks for the time. You guys just finished up your fall season here recently with the championship at the East Lake Cup. As far as I'm just kind of curious, Ole Miss plays South Carolina in football here in a day or so. Have you gotten some ugly alumni letters the way you've been kind of a pain to the Gamecocks over the last 2 or 3, 4 years?
I have, because my family, we all went there. My brother, sister, and I all played at South Carolina. So we do have a piece of Carolina in our heart as we spend a lot of time there. And I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina. So, but I'm a coach. I like to win. I like to compete. So when it comes to, playing sports and we're competing against them, it doesn't matter who it is. We want to win. So, but yeah, it's a fun little rivalry.
Yeah, no, it feels like every time I look up and whatever the kind of the top thing you guys have done, South Carolina seems right there over the course of this run you're on.
Yeah, my brother tweeted something recently when we were at East Lake. He's like, I'm kind of torn. Who do I pull for, my sister's team or my Gamecocks? So it's been a challenge for everyone, I guess.
Just getting back on the course, I know it's the question you've got a ton, but it's where I'll start too. After the way everything ended in the spring, and you not having a lot of uncertainty, what's it been like just to have some semblance of normalcy here the last little bit?
It's been great. Golf is a sport that you can play and play it safely, and we've been really lucky. It's had its trials and tribulations this semester with just worrying every day. You never know if someone's going to get COVID and have to miss the tournament. So, fingers crossed we have the same experience in the spring, but we're very diligent about doing all the right things and making sure everyone stayed healthy. So very lucky to have everyone be able to play that was here. We have one player that's going to be coming in the spring because she couldn't get her visa. But it's just been great to feel that sense of normalcy and do what we all love doing and competing and playing golf, and just really fortunate that the SEC and Ole Miss let us play.
Obviously some SEC only fields and then the opportunity to play in the East Lake Cup. But in general, do you feel like you were able to see enough from your team in the fall? I mean, was it enough of a normal semester going into the spring to feel good about things, to understand kind of what you have from a roster management standpoint? I mean, how do you sort of evaluate the opportunities that you have?
Yeah, we spent enough time together. I would have liked to play more tournaments. Usually we play 4 or 5, and we were able to play 3 this year. But we see them day in and day out at practice as well. So it was nice to just be able to see everyone and see the improvements they've made, given the circumstances. They all worked really hard over the summer while they were home once they were able to get out of quarantine and lockdown. And our Swedish players never had the lockdown, so they were able to practice all summer. So that was nice. But it's been great just to see how hungry this team is and how much they want to play after the letdown of having to stop last season mid-season. So it's been just really nice to see them pick up where they left off.
What was that like for you, the day you hear that it's shut down, those next 48 hours, just trying to be supportive to your team, obviously, you individually? I mean, what is that like when that happens, when you guys were on a pretty good run there and had a chance to do something pretty substantial?
It really felt surreal. It didn't feel like it was really happening because we kind of heard some, people talking about this COVID thing. And at the time we're like, oh, this can't be a big deal. So, it's tough because obviously we're competitive and we want to keep playing and give these student athletes opportunities that they've worked hard for. And, as a coach too, I mean, this is what we work for, is these opportunities. And so it was really tough. You kind of had to be a sounding board for them and to let them let their emotions out. And then, we had our own feelings and emotions as well as coaches, and just trying to be there for our players and team. And just really fortunate that they allowed the seniors to come back and have another opportunity at it this year.
Also, it allows you to, you obviously get a couple players back that maybe you wouldn't have, and you kind of set up your roster pretty well, didn't it?
Clinton coming back has been a big help. So I know you talked to her early this summer. She's got a lot of fire, had a great summer at the USAM. She's playing some of her best golf she's played since being in college, and so it's really good timing for us. And her main goal of coming back was to try to win another SEC and have a chance at winning a national championship. So she's going to do everything in her power to help make that happen.
I'm just kind of curious. I want to go back even farther than this, but you this week ranked number 2 in the country in the Golf Week rankings, and the way this program's been built over the years. When you took the job, what did you see at Ole Miss? I mean, when you first apply and you see that this is a program that obviously had not had a lot of success prior to your tenure, what was sort of the pros, the cons? What was the landscape that attracted you to this spot?
Well, I played golf in the SEC, as did my whole family. We played at South Carolina, so I know what the SEC is capable of and the funding. And, when I came on my visit, never in a million years did I think I would live in Mississippi, to be quite honest with you. I'm from South Carolina, and when I looked at the facilities, my first thing, honestly, I told the person, who I interviewed with, I said, these facilities aren't up to par. Where I'm at now is better than this. If you want to compete in the SEC, they've got to get better. And so Coach Malloy has been hands down fantastic, and Lynette and Keith and, Ross when he was here with helping this vision come true. So we now have one of the best short game facilities in the country and a great driving range, and a big thank you to, the Tosh family for making that happen. But, I saw the potential, and I've always enjoyed taking over programs that I can try to help and where I see the potential and I know I can make something great of it. had some success at Charleston Southern and Augusta State, and just kind of wanted to do the same thing here. And, it's been really fun. I'd like to just keep building on that. And I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. And the best part is just getting the players who want to buy into that vision and want to make something special here, because, you've got to have those players to make history and get the ball rolling like the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Floridas have done. So, that's kind of where we are right now. And it's, like I said, it's great working with the men's golf program, and Coach Malloy's fantastic. And we really work as a family and a program unit versus men's golf and women's golf.
Yeah, you mentioned facilities. Obviously, the short course is fantastic. I mean, we can dive into that. I can just obviously fill people in separately as well. But as far as, even the university course, they do tons to maintain. It looks as good as it can look, given the restrictions or the boundaries that you have. Where do you sort of feel like the facilities do stack up at this point at Ole Miss?
I think they're fantastic. I mean, I've seen leaps and bounds from both programs on, since we didn't have a short game facility to now what we do have, of just how much better the programs have gotten. So it makes a big difference when you can practice these shots. I mean, when we were at the East Lake Cup, multiple times did I say to players, like when Julia had that tough shot on 16, I said, Julia, this is the same shot you hit every day at practice. The same shot you hit over that bunker. She's like, yes, man, I got it, So same thing with Ellen Hume, like, this is what we practice in that chip in shot. This is where it is right here. Let's do it. And so it's just nice to be able to say that and do that. And honestly, we've chipped those shots 100 times. So we definitely stack up as one of the best, and it's just fantastic place to be right now.
That's the best way to explain that, really, for anybody who hasn't seen it or doesn't understand, is you can replicate basically any lie, any shot, any situation up to, 200 yards, frankly?
Yeah, you can hit your driver out. We play days where we hit our driver out there, and that is the best part, because when it comes down to pressure and you're getting nervous in a nervous situation, the best way to kind of get your mind back is to say, hey, I've done this before. I've done this on our short course, same grass, same shot. I've done it, and I can do it. And so it kind of, takes the pressure off a little bit, knowing that you've done it a bunch of times before.
What's been? I know you make regionals pretty early in your tenure, and it's gotten better and better and better. But from a I guess program standpoint of, it's not really chicken or the egg. In a lot of ways, you've kind of got to start winning a little, then to kind of keep winning and maintain and whatnot. What's it been like, just as far as how you're perceived on recruiting trails and from golfers, from recruits, as far as where the programs come to the interest that you're getting in the school? It's
going definitely trending in the right direction. It's been nice having players, say stuff to us, or even national coaches that we've known throughout the years who, quite frankly, might not have given us a chance on day one when I'm trying to get some players to come here. Mm-hmm. They're like, no, you're not good enough, And so now to still talk to some of these coaches, and they've had a little, change of heart, just seeing what we have done and kind of where we see this program going. And, that's the best part. And I don't blame them at the beginning. I know we had to prove ourselves a little bit, and that's what we're doing right now. And like I said, just really look forward to continuing that. We've got a great group of girls, no drama. They just want to win, and they want to win for each other. And that's the important part, that, they're going to give it their all to help their teammates out.
What is the difference in recruiting somebody from the United States versus, obviously, you picked up Ellen recently, and different players as far as overseas? How do those processes differ, or the same, or how do they work?
You need to travel overseas a lot, and obviously we can't do that at the moment. So it's either building connections with some national coaches over there throughout the years, or it's traveling to a bunch of the tournaments and watching, because these players don't know the difference in a Duke, an Ole Miss, a Vanderbilt. They just know a lot of times off of ranking or players that have gone there before or things like that. They don't quite understand the conferences and different stuff until they're actually here and can know about it. So a lot of times they base their knowledge off of players who have been at schools before that they know. So it's definitely different, whereas the U.S., they know the difference in the schools and things like that. So, with the COVID going on right now, it's making it a little more difficult for the international recruiting piece of this, but we're just, trying to make the best out of it and do what we can with social media and, Zoom calls and phone calls and things of that sort.
What does your recruiting calendar look like? How far out do you guys get commitments? Is it more like what I would be used to with baseball, where it's several years out and different things? How does it sort of work as far as how you're putting that together for future seasons right now?
Yeah, at this point, we're kind of looking just one season at a time, because we've got players that are still wanting to use a fifth year, and so it's kind of a little bit of roster not a nightmare, but it's a little more difficult. Let's just say that with because we want to give all of our players who want that 5th year, they deserve it. And so we're going to honor that for them if they choose to accept that 5th year. So it's just trying to figure out how to put those pieces together. But to be quite honest, we're taking it a little bit a year at a time, maybe 2 years out at this point, as far as, looking at those commitments right now. We just got a 2021 who signed today. So obviously we're working on our 22s as well.
Okay. You mentioned obviously being from South Carolina, playing at South Carolina. When you finish up, was coaching what was automatically in your mind? I mean, what was sort of those years like, or were they toward the end? I mean, what did you kind of feel like you were going to do for a career at that point?
Yeah, I wrote a paper about coaching way back in the day in college about maybe wanting to do it one day. But when I finished school, I kind of wanted to try things outside of golf. I mean, I spent time caddying on tour for my brother and for my friend Christy McPherson on the LPGA. I traveled with her a lot. I worked for a recruiting firm, and I worked for a real estate development company. So I had my real estate license in South Carolina and North Carolina. I just kind of wanted to see there's more to me than just golf. And then it was not until I was at a job that someone called me about an opportunity with coaching, and I kind of jumped all over it because I was really interested in it and something I'd always thought about doing. So I went straight into that as a head coach at Charleston Southern. I was never an assistant coach or anything, so I didn't quite know what I was doing, just had to figure it out along the way, and I had a great mentor with the men's coach there who's now at UAB, so I really appreciate all of Mike's help. But it's just been really a dream come true, and I don't really ever feel like I'm working because it's just so much fun to work with the student athletes day in and day out, and truly a blessing to be here.
Yeah, I saw you end up getting a second degree in hospitality management or something when I was looking up some different things. Yeah. Had you not coached, are you still doing real estate today? What are you doing?
I don't know. I like it. Honestly, I look at it about every day just because I'm intrigued by it. So I kind of like it. So maybe, you never know.
What's been, you're at Charleston Southern, you talk about, moving up and the job at Augusta becomes a possibility. What did that transition, I guess, kind of teach you as a coach about yourself, of getting to a school that, ended up turning Augusta into basically, the top 25 program, if you will? What was that step like kind of in your maturation as a coach?
I mean, it felt great because that's always my goals, is just to work my hardest and, just really build something to the best of my ability that we can. So that was a good feeling. At Augusta State at the time, I only had 3.8 scholarships out of 6, and I'm competing against teams that have 6. So that's a challenge, and so you're really having to just do what you can and make the most out of each and every player that you have and just try to develop them. So, it was a huge stepping stone to go from there to Ole Miss. And I remember articles being written that I wasn't going to be, I wasn't a big enough name, that, they should have hired someone's bigger name. And to be quite honest, I'm thankful that person wrote that because it's what motivates me to say, hey, I can do this, So thank you for the person who wrote that article. It keeps me going. And, I just want to prove that I can do it.
You haven't looked them up since then or anything? You hadn't thrown any shots their way?
No, I would never do that.
So you get into, I guess, what was the opportunity like just to get into the East Lake Cup? You're able to get this huge platform, obviously one of the biggest college tournaments as far as profile there is out there, probably other than the postseason. You're ranked off last season. Usually it's the semifinalists and the finalists from the previous NCAA championships. But just from a program standpoint, what did that sort of mean for you guys just to even play, even nevertheless winning?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was unusual circumstances that we're in, but we had a great season last year. So we were truly thrilled. That's been a goal of all of these players, is to qualify for that and make it. And what a great stage that is to, to promote Ole Miss. And we have such a great group of girls that are personable and, love showing their personality and talking about Ole Miss because they're all so proud of it and just really love it as a school. So to be able to have 3 days of national television, international, I should say, just publicity for our team, it just means a lot because they've earned it and they work hard day in and day out. And this hasn't been a process that's come easy or it hasn't come overnight. A lot of people jump on board once you have success, but, this takes time. I'm in my 6th season now, so it's taken about 5.5 years to get here. And, we'd love to be back next year. They just treat you fantastic and you just feel like you're at a tour event. So it was a great experience for the whole team, and very thankful for all the fans who reached out to us and let us know that they're supporting us.
What has made you guys so good at match play? I mean, what is it about the match play component of golf that's allowed you guys to excel like you have?
I think we have some players. Some of them play with a chip on their shoulder. Some of them are just super feisty and they love that one-on-one challenge. I can't really explain it. It's just kind of what's inside of you as a person. Match play is not easy, and some people hate it. They don't like that feeling of playing against one other person, but we just have a group of girls that really thrive on it and really love it, and so that's great. I'm gonna hope they keep that mentality and keep going forward like that. But it can be tough, and with match play, it can be anyone's game. You can be even par or 1 over and be losing by 3. That's what Ellen Hume was doing the day she played Caitlin Pack. She was playing good golf, but she was 3 down through 9 and just flipped a switch on that back 9. So that's the fun part about it. Anything can happen.
Do you guys practice it? I mean, are you able to replicate that at all?
You can try. I mean, we'll do it sometimes, but it's a little different when you're playing with a teammate, and you can replicate it as much as you can, but it's not quite the same as doing it against another team.
I know Kennedy talked about that if you hit it away from the cart path, it's out of bounds and different things. What's some of your other practice quirks to try to get them homed in?
Oh boy, yeah, we do that one because we want to make it harder. We want it to be as hard as possible at practice and get easier as we move on. Do a lot of ladder drills that are really hard, and you have to go backwards and until you finish. And a lot of times, if you don't finish it that day, you got to come back the next day, the next day, the next day, like every day of practice until you get it finished. That way, it's teaching the mentality of never quit, don't give up. You don't get to leave just when practice is up. When practice is up, you leave, but you have to come back the next day to keep working on it. What else? Sometimes you had to add strokes the last 4 holes. If you make a bogey, you add 1, make a double, you add 2, make a triple, you add 3, just for the last 4 holes because, a lot of times people crumble under pressure. We switch it up a lot.
Yeah, I think Zach told me y'all punished par 5 scoring for a little there at one point, some different things. So
we've done that as well. So it's fun to keep them on their toes, and they like it. They won't admit it, but I think they like it.
Have you seen it kind of progressed from the very beginning. I mean, you talked about, you get here and you have high expectations, but you saw enough progress to, I know you never necessarily doubted, but to really believe in what you were doing throughout. I mean, you make a regional pretty early in your tenure and kind of continued to build on that. It was pretty steady, right, from the start?
Yeah, it's been steady. I mean, we've moved up every year in the rankings since day one. I mean, we were 134. I think we went to like 102, maybe to 78 or 80 to 40. It's just kind of been a constant move up 30 spots or so every year. And, a big change. Every player we've had here has been a big piece of this. I would say Julia Johnson and Connor Beth Ball coming in, their attitude was, we want to change this program. Julia had on her refrigerator all of her goals, SEC Freshman of the Year, win the SEC Championship, listed out. And you know what? She's marked off 3 of those. She's been an All-American, won SECs, all Freshman of the Year. So that's the type of people that we want here and that have, really helped this program become what it is today.
What's it been like playing an all-SEC schedule this fall? I mean, and obviously, you guys have played well enough to get into some bigger events anyway nationally. I know that's a huge part of it, is kind of getting good enough to play a tougher schedule and different things. But how have the girls kind of handled that mindset of every single time out you're playing, frankly, the best teams in the country?
I think they like it because, it's tough, but luckily we're in a great conference. So, you have to show up each week. You could show up and play well and finish 10th. We're in the SEC, so it's a challenge, and I know they like the challenge. So their goal is to try and win these, and as is every other team's. But nobody's complained about it. No one said anything. They're just happy to be playing at this point, and hopefully in the spring we'll get to play against some other teams, see some different competition. I know everyone's excited about that, and help get everyone a little more ready for regionals and nationals.
Had it been a normal year, your schedule was pretty packed, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had 4 events, and then, because we were maybe going to do the Annika, because we were invited to that, and then we had 4 other events, so it was going to be a full year for sure, but, they allowed us to play 3 events, which, once again, very thankful for that, and just lucky to have been able to play right now.
Yeah, I guess strength of schedule-wise, it was more than in past seasons, right?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, we had a really strong schedule, so, and we're trying to work on ours for next year now, and kind of in the same boat of keeping a strong schedule as we can.
So I mentioned before we started the show, you're wearing your Masters attire today. What's the best you've ever done at Augusta National?
Oh, well, I've shot 1 under, but then I've also shot 78 and 76. So it's your bad shots are still good shots out there. You're just happy to be there, and you could care less what you shoot. So it's truly an unbelievable place. My favorite week of the year, whether it's in April or in November, it's still the best week of the year.
I said this on the podcast earlier in the week. I mean, I got pretty excited today once you saw it on. I turned it on and streamed it to the TV this morning. But there is something about November that's just not the same. It took all week to kind of get there because we don't get the, in April it's the new and the spring and the blooms and the temperatures are warming up. And there's almost kind of an intangible difference that it did just kind of feel like a golf tournament until it actually kicked off this morning.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely not the same vibe, but it's not, I think everyone's going to be sitting around watching TV on Sunday when, it comes down to the finals, and it'll be just as exciting, but it's definitely a different vibe. The spring is just a fantastic time for it with the azaleas blooming, and living in Augusta, Georgia for 4 years, it was the best week of the year for sure, and everybody got so excited and hyped about it, and it was just so much fun.
How big of a deal is it for women's golf with them hosting the Women Amateur the last couple of years and that being an annual event moving forward?
It's truly amazing what they've done in recent years to help junior golfers, to help women, to truly help everyone, and to give them the opportunity to play there on a competitive tournament. It's top notch, and really excited for Julia Johnson. Hopefully they play that tournament in the spring since she wasn't able to play last year. But she's super thrilled about that, and just to have that opportunity just shows where the game of golf is going, and to have the support of Augusta National it's just great to see for women's golf.
What are you guys doing between now and the spring kicks off? I mean, can you still have a normal practice schedule? What happens? I mean, how are y'all kind of shut down or not?
We can't. It's dead period because the exams start and then they all go home. So, everyone's going home for the holidays. And so we won't start back till January with practice and things like that. So it's kind of a long break, but I know everybody is going back home their separate ways and still working on their game. And we can't recruit or do anything right now either as far as on the road or have anyone in town. So it's a little different and unique of what we're used to doing.
Do you give them a bunch of stuff to work on over the course of them going home? Like, how does that work as far as the stuff you give them to prepare with?
A lot of the girls go play in their own tournaments and stuff like that. Some players are playing some events down in Florida. Go back home, work with their instructors back home, things of that sort. So that's the good thing about golf. Most players, they're used to doing their own thing, or they have their own coaches back home as well, so they can keep their game sharp.
I guess kind of last thing, and I mentioned this, I guess last time you and I talked, but you're obviously doing alone. You had Drew and now Zach. I mean, just from an assistant coach standpoint, recruiting, teaching, and whatever, that's been a pretty integral part for your program.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying that, obviously you've been able to attract and keep assistant coaches. It's also been a huge part of your program.
Oh, yeah. I've been so lucky to have, Drew and Zach, just both, been great people and worked really hard, and they're just easy to relate to. And, and it's nice having a different opinion sometimes. And I couldn't have asked for better people to work with. And I think that's a big part of the success is surrounding myself with people who make me better, who maybe have some strengths that are my weaknesses and vice versa, and who the girls can relate to and feel comfortable around. And so just really pleased with, all the help that Zach's been giving me, and, can't thank him enough for all his hard work. And it's just been truly fantastic. How do you guys decide who to walk with each tournament? Like, do you move around a little bit? Does it depend on the player, on who wants you around? How does that work? Kind of, a lot of times we'll just tell them at the beginning of the week, or we'll ask them, what do y'all need? And some will say, hey, would you mind helping me read putts? Would you mind walking with me? Others will say, hey, I'm good, go with someone else. Mm-hmm. So I prefer, a lot of times what it's kind of worked, I'll walk with one player and Zach will be the one that hops around to kind of check on it, player to player, and see who needs what. And we're keeping an eye on scores to see kind of which direction he needs to go. But last tournament I walked all 3 rounds with Ellen Hume, and then I dropped back with Julia or another Kiara or Andrea or somebody. So, there's not really a rhyme or reason. It's just kind of what we feel is necessary that day. Well, Kory, I appreciate the time. Let's do it again in the spring. Enjoy the time off for a little bit, and good luck as we move forward. Thanks, Chase. Thanks for having me. Take care.
So our thanks to Kory Henkes for her time earlier this week on the podcast, and then again today. It's 38-28, 2:04 to go in Lexington. Really all that's on the line at this point is the betting line. It was 17. So if you took the Wildcats and laid the 17, you're in trouble. If you took Vanderbilt and got the 17, you're feeling cautiously optimistic at this moment. So basketball season right around the corner. Today's the 14th. It starts in 11 days, which is really hard to believe. Hopefully we get there. I don't even want to think about some of the COVID stuff. There are people that, Rick Pitino in particular today, urging a pushback of the schedule and having May Madness instead of March Madness. I'll be honest, I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to see basketball season. It's going to look different. It's going to feel different. There are going to be stops and starts. I have real concerns about the contact tracing, how that's going to impact things. But regardless, it's going to start in 11 days. The Ole Miss women's team, they open on November the 25th against Northwestern State at the Pavilion in Oxford. I don't know a time on that just yet. They play Northwestern, then McNeese, then Kansas and Alcorn and Mississippi Valley and Jackson State before going to George Mason for their first road game of the season, December the 19th. They open SEC play at South Carolina on New Year's Eve. So then the home opener in SEC play is January the 3rd against LSU. So we talked to Yolette McPhee-McCuin earlier this week on a Zoom call. So we met with the media, about 6 minutes here. Here's her.
Good afternoon. Just pretty excited about the news on Shakira and being named to an award with such an iconic player and Lisa Leslie. I know that means a lot to her and just shows the type of student athletes we are bringing and recruiting to this program. We're a week and a half away from the season, so if we needed a little boost for her, this is perfect for it. And now, and with the SEC schedule being released, I know that it's an extra added excitement for my team.
Jay Thompson?
Hey, Coach.
Hey.
Just with the loss of Puckett, how does that kind of change the makeup of your team and what you may see on the court now moving forward this season?
Yeah, well, and Deja would have really impacted us a lot and would have allowed me to play a two-headed monster, so to speak, with her and Shakira on the floor. Because obviously Shakira can float and do some things on the perimeter. So it makes us play Shakira primarily at the 5, but it doesn't limit her. It just is a different look. I can see sometimes Shakira getting out there with E, but from a rotation purpose, that makes us start to look at utilizing a smaller lineup so that we can maybe put Caitlin down there and play some small Miami Heat small ball.
The Pavilion Madness was the other night. We kind of saw what the layout of the arena is going to look like. Just how was that for y'all to kind of get the girls out there and just kind of get used to it, knowing that's what they're going to see this year?
Yeah, for us, it was incredible. I enjoyed it. I was glad that the lights were shining and they had to play in front of some people. We have a very young team. We only have 3 players that played in the SEC. 4 if you want to count Donetta, but she sat out a year, so we're inexperienced. And so that gave us an incredible opportunity to get out there and play in an environment that we hadn't been playing in a long time. So I thought it was good, and I thought it was a good way for a mental help for our student athletes because, there's a lot of things that they're probably unsure about. And so that allowed them to get out there. Allow them to get out there and be able to play and get some type of normalcy.
I'll throw another one out there. Just what are your thoughts on the schedule and how much did y'all have to kind of amend the non-conference once y'all knew when y'all were able to start? How much was that kind of rearranged, or was it about as close as you wanted to keep it?
No, we have a totally different schedule because of everything that happened with the pandemic. So as you can see, we're staying close to home. But we had teams we were going to La Tech. We were going to be in the Bahamas and play a pretty competitive schedule. And we're not able to do those things, unfortunately, due to COVID. Fortunately, we have teams in our region that we can get to that, and it doesn't take long. And then we have a true road trip that we're glad we were able to keep with George Mason in the Atlantic 10. As far as the SEC schedule is concerned, I hadn't got that far yet, so I couldn't even tell you who we're playing after South Carolina. But we're excited. We know where our matchups are at home with Mississippi State, Kentucky, and LSU, and we'll be ready to compete.
Since you talked to us, I guess, a couple weeks ago or so, I mean, what have you seen from some of those younger girls now that practice, I guess, maybe intensified a little bit?
Yeah.
When the season's here, I mean, what have you kind of seen on the practice floor?
I kind of seen them trying to find their way. At one point, they wasn't even sure that Shakira was going to play. And then she got eligible. So that's another thing they had to act like a reality, like, okay, Shakira is playing. For all of us, we had to adjust because, for a long time, she was on the scout team. So just having her back in the fold and in the rotation, I think our freshmen, they're going to be up and down all season. They have good days, and just like practice. Sometimes they look really good in practice, and then sometimes they look like freshmen. So I think that's what their whole season is going to be like, and we're going to depend on the other kids that are older and have a little bit more experience to help us through those moments.
Having Shakira on the scout team, as you said, that you feel like that maybe sharpened your iron a little bit for them having to go against her?
For sure.
As a teammate now?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it gave the whole team a sense of confidence once she got eligible that they didn't. I mean, they had, but not. They know what they have in Shakira. So it gave them a sense of confidence, an extra pep that I think that we needed. I think everyone's feeling the effects of the pandemic. It's been a long season for all of us. So just imagine, 18 to 22-year-olds trying to figure out how to navigate through that. It's been challenging. So we kind of needed that boost to continue to work on where we're trying to go and get through for the season.
So our thanks to her for her time earlier this week as they get ready for their November the 25th opener. The Ole Miss men's team, meanwhile, gets started on November the 25th as well in the Justin Reed Ole Miss Classic. First time for that. Really creative scheduling given the pandemic. Everybody had to really throw schedules against the wall. Ole Miss opens with Central Arkansas on Wednesday the 25th. On Thursday the 26th, the Rebels play Jackson State. And on Friday the 27th, they play Arkansas State. And then Memphis at home, UNC Wilmington at home. Ole Miss goes to Middle Tennessee and then to Dayton. And then they play UT Martin at home on December the 22nd before opening SEC play a week later, December the 29th, at Alabama. So we talked to Kermit Davis earlier this week. Vanderbilt definitely covering the line. Vanderbilt actually giving Kentucky a game. I think they're going to run out of time here. 38-34. Kentucky has the lead, about to be 38-35 with 30 seconds left. Vanderbilt obviously will try an onside kick, and if they get one, they'll be a field goal away from overtime. But give the Commodores some credit. Every reason in the world to just quit, and this team hasn't the last couple of weeks. They played well against Mississippi State relatively, and then they played pretty well today against Kentucky. So probably says something for the job that Derek Mason's done the last couple of weeks for a team that has been decimated by defections and opt-outs and some injuries. Got smoked, as you know, against Ole Miss 2 weeks ago, and they've rebounded from that and been okay. Speaking of rebounding, it's been a big focus for Kermit Davis after last season. This is an Ole Miss team that he is excited about. He thinks they're going to crash the boards pretty much 1 through 5, position after position. We talked to him earlier this week about his team, about contact tracing, about a number of things. So here is Ole Miss basketball coach Kermit Davis.
Well, it took us a guy from L.A., our man Lane, to come up with "Come to the Sip." So I'm on his bandwagon right now. So I enjoyed that. So it's good. So I'll probably be wearing some of those on the sideline like they're doing in football. Appreciate you guys being with us. I kind of will start about our recruiting class that we had. These guys have been committed for a while, and but you're always anxious until you get the official paperwork and kind of started out with Deshaun Ruffin, who we've been involved with for a long time since we've gotten the job at Ole Miss, dynamic point guard from Jackson, and terrific player, great family. And James White, who we think's really a guy that's got a great chance. Maybe some people think he may be the best scorer in the state of Georgia, 6'5", very skilled, athletic, another guy loves basketball. He's already gained probably about 10 or 12 pounds just during this COVID. And then Grant Slatton, I've known Grant for a long time. One of the best shooters, I think, in this whole class, 6'6", 200 pounds, extremely athletic, scored a bunch of points at Sparta High School in Tennessee. And so just three great families, great support systems, and we all think they're going to be terrific here.
Nate, start us off.
Is there ever any nervousness or anxiousness about Deshaun coming down the stretch?
You know, it just wasn't just because we just stayed in touch with him just every single day, and Win Case did a great job there. And, you know, when he committed to us in the summer, you know, he just is his mom, and just he loved Ole Miss. He wanted to be close to home. He loves the fact that 2 hours and 15 minutes, you know, he can be right here and the family can be here. You know, he won a state championship in our building, so he had a great, I think, 35, and he played great. So we're always anxious, don't get me wrong, but it was just never any doubt this is where he was going to be, and we just thought for sure he'd sign on the first day.
What does it mean for a program in general to have a guy, highest rated recruit in program history, and I guess if you just pull up the top 50 or whatever, and kids will see Ole Miss there beside one of those names. What does that mean for a program?
Yeah, it means a great deal for universities like us that are, you know, we have swung for the fences, and we've gotten beaten in some high level recruiting battles, and that's what's going to happen. We've won our share. You know, Matthew Morrell, obviously the year before, you know, like the 35th, 36th best player in the country from Memphis, and obviously Deshaun. Because if he'd have gotten a chance to be on the circuit again, you know, this summer, you know, he's just one of those. He may be as good, maybe the most electrifying scorer in the whole class. I mean, he's just something what he can do. And it's one of them guys that you just can't take your eyes off of when you start watching him play. And so I had the people and other really good players, even the class of 22, they all know him. They all respect him. They've all played against him or with him. And so I think he can help you down the road recruiting-wise.
We'll go to Joe.
Yeah, Coach, sticking with Deshaun, you mentioned that, you know, you guys were on him, you know, when you got the job. What did you see from him early on in the recruiting process? And, you know, why was he a priority even when he was a youngster coming up, you know, learning how to play?
Yeah, you know, Joe, when I first got the job, it was in April recruiting, and he was playing in a 16 and under game, and he had just finished the 9th grade. And I watched him for about 2 minutes. And my assistant, Win Case, and I think Win was maybe another. I said, Win, I called you to come over and watch this kid play. It was a young team from Mississippi. It was just something about him. He was just small, probably no telling what he weighed, probably 140 pounds or something. But just the way he moved, how tough he was, he was just dynamic. You know, like he said, even at that age, just, you know, one of those electrifying guys that I enjoyed. And so we got back and offered him on the spot, and then just from there just started, the recruiting process started.
Go to Ben.
Sorry, Joe. What was it like seeing him grow as a player, and then having the front row seat to see him play, you know, a big game, state championship, and
yeah, you know, it is. You know, when you start recruiting a kid, I say, gosh, you've offered him when he just finished his 9th grade year. But the day does come, you know, when these guys start going to college, and with great players like Deshaun, a lot of time the process needs to start at that age. And it really was. It's fun. You know him, Joe, he's got this great personality, you know, and I was looking at his face on your Twitter that you posted, and he looks like he's about 15 years old still. You know, he's got that baby face, and he's small, and but it's been fun just to watch him grow as a person. His mother, Twyla, is just terrific. Then obviously David Sanders, you know, is a great player here at Ole Miss, and David's one of the very best coaches in our state, so he's getting taught and, you know, coached at a high level all the time. So, and he's just going to continue. Boy, his ceiling is still so high, you know, and he'll come in. you've seen him. One thing he doesn't lack is confidence, and he thinks he belongs in every game against every player, and that's what you got to have in our league.
Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, Kermit, that's 3 guards in the fall. What's the approach to the spring then, especially considering, Romello could be gone, Hadim could be gone. Is it just about roster evaluation and kind of seeing where you are in the spring?
Yeah, it is. I think obviously it's going to be front court players, forwards, bigs that can play. We're kind of involved with one more high-level guy, and we're waiting. We'll see what happens. But after that, Ben, it's going to be, transfer market. The one-year transfer is going to pass in January, and so that's going to be the new thing in college basketball, and it's going to go forever. And so you hate to say it, but it's the reality that everybody's going to be evaluating everybody's roster. That's just where it's gotten to. It's going to be football and it's going to be basketball. And if you're not doing that, then you're behind the times. So everybody's going to be evaluating all rosters, and ours will be front court. We're involved with a really good junior college big that won't make his mind up in the early period, but in the spring. But that really is front court to be the priority.
Nick, go ahead.
Kermit, you brought up Deshaun this year and Matthew Morrell last year, just back-to-back years getting the highest-rated recruit in school history. Was this something you had as a priority when you got here to kind of change the way Ole Miss recruited? And if so, what have you done to kind of make Ole Miss more of an attractive destination for those top recruits?
Yeah, and Andy had some really good players, and but it was just the fact of even like Austin Crowley, was a 4-star recruit and was a highly recruited player, and I know we had to get him from Vanderbilt after the coaching change, but really kind of 3 guys from from our area. I just think this. I think number one, you got to have a great product to sell, and we do at Ole Miss. You got to have facilities to sell, and we've got some of the very best in college basketball. And maybe the Pavilion is the best arena in our league. Not the biggest, but the best. And then you got to have a staff, number one, that are very good and believes in the product that they sell. And we've got that. I've got 3 great assistants. I got a whole staff full of really good assistant coaches. And I think it's how do you package it? And you start packaging Ole Miss and facilities and education. Now, if you want a big city, we're not your spot. But if you want a great college environment that people care about their university, and then the biggest thing too, guys, I can't tell you how our players sell it. And we got guys from L.A., Chicago, Harlem, Orlando, everywhere, L.A., and they all love Ole Miss. They enjoy Oxford. I mean, they just enjoy going to school here. So you get a kid that has a relationship with our players, I mean, they'll convince you that it's a great, great place to go to school.
Go to John.
Kermit, obviously, the season's starting in less than 2 weeks. How does kind of everything stand? How are your guys doing? And obviously, in an unconventional season, how's everyone kind of holding up?
Yeah, John's we're all knock on wood about COVID, and we all had our tests, and everybody was negative. And you hold your breath. Now we're testing on Tuesday, so like Wednesday morning or Tuesday night, you're kind of holding your breath from the call from the trainer, worried about your players, worried about yourself. When Tom Izzo can get it, you never know. You try to be as careful as you can, but then sometimes we forget about just normal basketball injuries. Like we had Romello and Hadim C. Our 2 starting kind of bigs, at that spot collided. They both had concussions. Romello just came back, full contact yesterday for the first time. Hadim C will be out probably until Monday. We've had Devontae Shooter kind of got nicked up with a back injury, and he didn't participate in our Pavilion Madness last night. It's minor, and it's great that they will be back. So you have to deal not only with COVID, but obviously just the regular basketball things that you go through. Our team has been really competitive. We've had really, really good, tough practices. I like our team. I like coming to the gym with our team. I know the league is going to be really, really good. But I think over the next under 2 weeks, I think everybody in college basketball is trying to get their practices down to an hour 45, hour 30. I mean, you got to get your legs back and be fresh. But I know one thing, we're really looking forward to the Justin Reed Classic that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And it's going to be, we don't have any exhibitions or scrimmages, so it's going to be evaluation and trying to get guys minutes and to watch those guys play in those 3 games.
And then a quick follow-up to that was talking about a guy like KJ. What are kind of your expectations for him this year? How do you want to kind of see his game develop?
Well, he's got to become a more confident shooter. He's got to be a guy that goes to next play. He needs to be a guy that is thought at the end of the year as being an all-league SEC forward. That's the jump he's got to make, or that he needs to make. But he's got to be a guy that can go to the next play. He can't let one call affect the next play. He can't let one shot affect the next shot because he's a good rebounder. He's very skilled for his size. He's got great experience in our league. But you're right, kind of that next step to be an all-league player is the next one for him.
Neal, go ahead.
Hey, Kermit, this really isn't about your program necessarily, just the sport in general. With these contact tracing rules the way they are right now, you see it with football this weekend. How difficult is it going to be to get most of the season in?
Yeah, Neal, it can be difficult, and I just think that these setbacks are coming. I know it's been a rough week for SEC football because you can imagine they were on kind of smooth sailing for a long period of time, and we talk to our guys all the time, and just what is social tracing? I mean, 6 feet apart for 15 straight minutes. Now there's social tracing. Everybody's going to have these chips, and the social tracing during chips. If there's a game and somebody from Kentucky tests and we're on the same floor as Kentucky, this chip can give you data where they 15 minutes apart, a close proximity. There's even been thinking about, Neal, for the first free throw, if it's a 2-shot foul, not to bring your guys to the line. But the second time, what is ways, so you think about in football, it's probably those linemen that lean on each other all the time. In basketball, it's going to be probably those 2 centers. They just kind of come to each other all the time. They lean on each other to more physical play. But all you can do is control your team. And all we talk about, guys, if you ride in a car, you cannot ride in a car with a guy for over 15 minutes. You understand that. If you're going to play a Nintendo game or a 2K game, whatever you're going to play, Fortnite or whatever you play, you're going to have to be 10 feet apart. I mean, those are things that you can control. And parties, all the different things outside. So sometimes maybe in competition you can't control it, but those day-to-day things, all we talk about is that. And so it's something we'll just keep trying to emphasize. Number 2, Neal, is depth is going to be a huge factor in this SEC race, not just for injuries, for COVID. Guys who can play multiple positions are going to – we've seen Lane move offensive guys to defensive guys. I mean, a guy who can play the 2, 3, 4, and a 5. Can your 4-man play the 2? I mean, all those kind of things, it's just kind of what we're going to be up against during the season.
Do you travel differently when you guys
Yes.
go around and travel? Do you put 1 in a room instead of 2 in a room? I mean, how do you – some of the stuff I know you can't avoid it. Do you travel to the arena at a different time, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we're just, it's going to be more bus trips, and try to socially distance. It's going to be limited travel parties, not as many managers, not a lot of the guys that will be going on trips that used to. I think it will be 2 to a room. Obviously I've just kind of watched video of pregame meals with Ole Miss. It's seen, they'll have social distancing, but there's still guys at the tables. There's obviously the arenas are going to be set up differently. Obviously, we're going to be on no commercial flights. I mean, early, like we're busing to Middle Tennessee, and then we're busing to Dayton after we play them and kind of stay an extra day in Murfreesboro. Would have normally come back and chartered to Dayton. I think we will charter back from Dayton. But a lot of these, games that are, in proximity, probably be busing and try to stay out of, different things that we can do, obviously from a cost standpoint and then from a COVID standpoint. The things that worry are hotels. I mean, just picking up a channel changer in your room. I mean, just different things. The person that waits on you at the table. I know these people are, different precautions. In my world, and I mentioned to a couple SEC coaches, I didn't really bring it up to league office. I wish we'd have gone all SEC games personally. I wish we'd have played a 26-game SEC schedule and just play a round robin. And terrible for head coaches, great for fans and media and, and the SEC network. But just because of dealing with all of these makeup different games, Neal, at least you've got people on the same page that you can try to get through it together.
Well, how was that received when you pitched a 26-game SEC schedule?
They didn't like that very much at all, okay? And I didn't pitch it up in front of the whole group. I think Cal wanted to play his Louisville game. I don't know if Cal wanted to play his Louisville game or not. We didn't ask Jerry at this year at a particular time. But I think they wanted their national games. And, yeah, and like I said, it's not really good for head coaches in our records, but probably for fan base, SEC network. But I know the SEC, and our people have done a great job, like everybody in the SEC. Like if our MTE event, Jackson State, Arkansas State, Central Arkansas, they're going to have to take this test on a Tuesday and everybody be negative before they get on the bus and come. And then we're paying for their testing while they're here, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that's our cost. So the guarantees that we're paying them, Neal, are not as high, okay? But a lot of that other things is based on, we're going to be paying for COVID testing for these non-conference teams that maybe don't have the same testing as we do at Ole Miss and up to SEC protocol.
Go to Jerry.
Hey, Jerry, I think you're muted.
Yeah. There you go.
Sorry. I wanted to ask you about the fluid rosters and the increased transfers, and as you say, people evaluating other rosters. What challenge does that bring to a coach to have to mesh a lot of new players into a unit year after year after year?
Yeah, I just think this, Jerry, it's like, the seniors everybody getting extra years. So you start looking at rosters, how young everybody is right now, around the country. And like we have 4 seniors on our team, Hadeem C., Romello White, Devontae Shuler, Demencio Vaughn. They all can come back the next year. And we would have 17 scholarships instead of 13. So that's something that we're all going to have to manage. I think it was a great rule because I think what everybody was worried about, it's the right thing to do with the kid. But all of a sudden, if games start getting canceled in football or basketball, who's going to opt out? Is it too many for a redshirt year? Can I not get it back? I'm going to sit out this season. So I think that put everybody at ease. But, Jerry, I'm telling you, people really don't understand, Jerry, the world that's fixing to happen in college athletics over the next 3 or 4 years. And just the turnover. And it's not just going to be the star quarterback at Alabama, the backup quarterback. It's going to be the backup defensive lineman. It's going to be the backup center. It's going to be the guy that's at Alabama or Ole Miss that's, the 7th or 8th man. So it's going to be a lot of turnover, and everybody's just going to have to be fluid with it. And it's just going to be a different day and time. You put that in there, Jerry, with the name, image, and likeness, I mean, it is going to be a different world. It's going to be a pro world in a college amateur market, and that's just where we're at.
Does a guy like John Calipari have an advantage since he's been meshing new rosters year to year for a decade now?
I've always talked about, the job that Cal has done with his team. I think you and I maybe had a conversation, just the young players and having a whole new team every single time. It's almost going to have to draw back, Jerry, my days when I was a junior college coach, and you would just, it'd have 8 or 9, 10 new guys every single time. And so, yeah, we're going to have to get used to it. But I think we're going to have to do a great job with the players in your program, re-recruit your players all the time. And I just think that's going to be a big thing, that you're going to have people that obviously they love the University of Kentucky. They love Ole Miss, and they're going to be here, And so our assistant coaches, we're all going to have to keep doing just a better job to re-recruit your players and try to sell them on the fact of keep growing in a program and, in just the transfer market, but it's going to happen.
Parrish?
Kermit, do you have an estimate on game times for your Justin Reed Classic?
Yeah, I think so, Parrish. We were hoping to go 3 o'clock all 3 days, on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. The women on Wednesday, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, I think is going to maybe play the late game maybe at 6 o'clock. So what we're hoping, Parrish, is that the first game of the Justin Reed Classic will start at noon, and then our games will start at 3. Now, there is in these classics, There's kind of a wipe down period, of sanitizing seats and the floor and different things. So sometimes that's about 20 or 25 extra minutes. Used to in these classics or NCAA tournament game, the handshakes, boom, and here comes the next game. So it's going to be a little period of time between. So I would think 3, no later than 3:30, but we're going to stay with the same game times all 3 days.
How has Deshaun Ruffin overcome his size to be an explosive scorer?
I'll tell you one thing. If you go watch him play, he can shoot it. He's strong, but he looks like a running back. He's built. He's real physical. He can take hits. He can get his shoulder by you. He's very athletic at the rim, and he's just about as. I don't know if there's another guy in the whole 21 class that is that athletic with the ball. In his whole career, all he's done in Mississippi is face double teams, triple teams. People just running at him from every different direction. And, he's one of those little guys. I know it's cliche-ish, but he has kind of a chip on his shoulder. And you remember Stephon Moody, small guy, and just had this compact game that was so athletic, could get the spots, could shoot it with range. Little guys will struggle, they can't shoot. But Deshaun, he can really shoot with range.
Nate, go ahead.
Coach, we're only about 2 weeks away from the start of the season. What are your expectations for this team? How high of a ceiling do you think you guys have?
I think that, obviously we want to be right in the mix to win an SEC regular season championship, and that's our goal. And is it high? Sure is, but, that's exactly what we're going to try to do. Is it going to be difficult? No question. We'll probably be picked anywhere from 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th, whatever that it may be. But I do think that we've got depth. I like our team. But it's the SEC is a league that you guys all know. You can finish first or you can finish 8th. And you can finish 8th or 9th and be an NCAA tournament team and still get to a Sweet 16 or a Final Four. I just think the league this year is probably the most depth. I think I'd follow it that probably the league has the possibility of more NCAA tournament teams than maybe it's ever had. And you're going to see a team that's maybe can be picked 11th or 12th, but can definitely be an NCAA tournament team and win a game. So the competition is going to be fierce, but we're just going to keep working. And I like our non-conference schedule. I like that we're at home early, and just get a chance to hopefully get some experience under our belt. And but we hope to. What you liked is to be in the last 2 or 3 weeks of this year and playing meaningful games that are relevant to trying to win a championship.
Go back to Ben.
Yeah, Kermit, y'all appealed and actually won Robert Allen's eligibility question. So getting him and having him available to you, described him as a Kermit Davis player. What can he provide, and what has he brought so far as practice?
He's one of the toughest guys that you'll coach. His motor is just nonstop. He's 6'8", 230. He just pursues every rebound, plays with detail. He just eat up with basketball. He's in the gym all the time. He stops by and he wants to watch tape all the time. He's just that kind of guy. And it was really kind of, with Hadim and Romello being out for both 8 or 10 days, Robert, he just almost got new life. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying it, but when I called him, and he just kind of was crying uncontrollably. He was so happy, and he couldn't wait to call his mom and his dad. And so he's a guy that's going to be built for how we play, and he's going to see a lot of playing time because it's just hard to keep a guy like that off the floor.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, Coach, I know you're mentioning the Justin Reed Classic, and I guess talk to me about how that came together, and specifically Jackson State getting involved. I don't think they've been on the schedule for a long time. And of course, Reed used to play for Wayne Brent, being assistant at Ole Miss. What's it like just having Jackson State back in the mix, and coach coming back to Oxford to kick off the season?
Yeah, it's just I have a lot of respect for Wayne, and obviously I saw those high school teams play when he had those great high school teams there at Provine. And, I called Keith. I said, Keith, we need to name the tournament. And Keith just right off the bat, so let's call it Justin Reed Classic. I said, that is perfect, And then so with that, We wanted to get an in-state team. We really thought in our classic we needed to get teams that were close, and so obviously we named it Justin Reed. I said, God, it'd be perfect to get Wayne, who was his high school coach and obviously was an assistant coach on some great teams for Rod at Ole Miss. So that was a great fit. And, and you can't find a better man to name it after than Justin Reed. I mean, he may be one of the most popular players to ever play at this school. Not only did he impact winning, but how he handled his business. He got a great family, and so we're really excited about that. But really, when the first time I asked Keith, that was the first name that hit his tongue, and that was great, and it was just perfect.
That's Kermit Davis. Ole Miss basketball, again, open up in 11 days on November the 25th, so right around the corner. One final in the SEC. Kentucky beats Vanderbilt 38-35. 38-35. Some finals around the top 25. Miami beat Virginia Tech 25-24 in Blacksburg. The Hurricanes now 7-1. They escaped there. Tom Allen and Indiana now 4-0. They beat Michigan State 24-0. Marshall 7-0 with a 42-14 win over Middle Tennessee. Liberty is 8-0 after beating Western Carolina 58-14. Louisiana Lafayette has a 28-10 lead over South Alabama at the half. Some games that have just gotten started. Notre Dame has a 3-0 lead at Boston College. That game about midway through the first. USC is ahead of Arizona early 7-0. Northwestern and Purdue kick off here in just a few minutes. Ole Miss and South Carolina tonight at 6:30. Normally a night like this would be a big recruiting night for the Rebels, but that is not the case now. It's a dead period that goes through April the 15th at least. So we talked recruiting yesterday with Zach Berry, our recruiting guy at rebelgrove.com. It's the Soft Verbal Podcast presented by Dead Soxy. By the way, don't forget tonight after the game, if however many points Ole Miss scores, that's your % off at Dead Soxy. Just enter the promo code Rebel Grove in the checkout item, in the checkout line in the promo code. And if Ole Miss scores 40, you get 40% off. If Ole Miss scores 47, you get 47% off. You see how it works. So here's Zach and myself with the Soft Verbal Podcast. Welcome into another edition of the Soft Verbal Podcast presented by Dead Soxy. I'm Neal McCready. Zach Berry with me here as well. It's Friday morning at 11:20 a.m. as we tape this in case the world changes in a short period of time, which it has been doing here lately. Got a special here for you from the people at Dead Soxy. Keep an eye on Ole Miss and South Carolina on Saturday night, and mainly keep an eye on the scoreboard at the conclusion of Saturday's game. However many points the Rebels have scored, Dead Soxy will match that number as a percentage discount. So if the Rebels post 38 on the Gamecocks, the promo code will activate for 38% off, 50 points, no problem. 50% off. You guys get how this works. 42 points, 42% off. 100 points, everything's free. It's all right there at Dead Soxy. This score sale will run from the conclusion of tomorrow night's game, Saturday night's game, until midnight on Monday, November the 16th. So you'll have a little more than 48 hours to take advantage of that. So when the Rebels get more than 30, it's an added discount to the discount you already get. So, in replace of the discount. So you guys know how it works. 45 points, 45% off at deadsoxy.com. All you got to do is use the promo code RebelGrove at checkout. Get the score sale percentage off all orders. And as always, stay Soxy. I'm coming to you from the Clark Ford Studios. Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900 is the number. Call it. Ask for Kory Clark. Tell Kory what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours, right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote, and the rest is completely up to you. You can shop it around. You can do what I've done. Let's hop into a Clark Ford today. You'll love it. 662-257-1900 is the number. Mr. Berry, how are you?
Neal, we're doing well. It's day 2 of the Masters, so got it on in here. Just watching guys hit a small golf ball.
I go, was this 4 under? I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know.
That video is amazing.
It's so good. It's the best thing Vernon does, and he's a genius with stuff like that. And I watch it over and over and over.
He's the only person that can do that. Nobody else can do that and be taken remotely serious and or think it's funny. Yeah. No, it's great. I watch I watch this and I'm like, how much money would I pay to be able to hit a golf ball like these guys do off the tee?
Oh, it would change the way that I view golf. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'd have a lot more fun. I wouldn't be chasing as many balls and looking around in trees and stuff.
Yeah, I'd actually play. People ask me all the time, why don't you play? It would be so expensive at my age to try to get good enough to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, people say, well, you have time. I don't have time. I mean, I literally don't have time. I'm doing 400 podcasts a week, and which is a lot of that is my own doing. And I've got to clean some of that up, but I don't have time. So, and if I did have time, I'd have to go get lessons, which are expensive. And then I lose 2 cases of balls every time that I play. So those things are expensive, and the equipment's expensive. Yeah. And I tried to turn Carson onto it a little bit, and I just don't think it resonated in his mind. It just didn't do much for him. He took some lessons. The lessons were great. I don't know, maybe something just in our family. Maybe we're just not meant to be golf people. We're just not, it's just not in us. And so he won't be able to say that, I wish my dad had made me play, because I tried to get him to play, but didn't. And maybe it'll catch on at another time. I don't know. All right, let's talk some recruiting. This is going to be a pretty short show because Zach's got a football game to officiate. I've got stuff to do. So we'll get right to the nitty gritty on this. We'll start with basketball. Signing day was on Wednesday. Ole Miss signed the 3 players that we all thought they would sign. Mm-hmm. Deshaun Ruffin, James White, Grant Slatton, all signed with the Rebels. No surprises there. Deshaun is a big story for Ole Miss. He really is. He's Kermit Davis was on a Zoom call with us on Thursday. There's a big story up at rebelgrove.com. If you want to read it, there's a lot there. And he was talking about how Deshaun, had the circuit not been canceled because of COVID, would have exploded really as a name, that kind of thing. But he talked about how all the kids in these classes, in his class, in the class below him, in the class 2 years below him, they all know how good Deshaun Ruffin is, how exciting he is to play, and all of that. And I think Kermit believes that Deshaun's going to have a real impact on the program from a recruiting standpoint beyond his impact as a player. So they're really excited about him. White and Slatton are sort of wings. Slatton can really shoot it. He's gotten bigger. He's a prospect that you can tell they're really excited about. In today's basketball, I started to say college basketball, but in basketball in general, if you can't stretch the floor and stretch defenses with perimeter shooting, you'll get killed. And Slatton's going to give them a shooter who you'll have to guard. So it's going to open up the middle of the floor. It's going to allow for guys like Matthew Morrell and Deshaun Ruffin to penetrate, to dish, to do all those things. You can't do those things if people don't respect your shooters. They'll especially with length, they'll take away the rim from a Deshaun Ruffin, because he's 5'10", so he's going to have clear paths to the rim, and having guys like White and Slatton provide that for him. I think they're super excited about White, by the way, Zach. I think they think that he's a guy that going to need some development, but has a real high upside. There's probably a floor there too that it might not work out. But I think they think that he has a lot of the raw physical skills with the right development, and they love the kid. They love the human being. They really think he's going to put the work in. I think they think he's a guy that could end up being a real surprise in this class.
Yeah, they really need him to have one of those year 1 to year 2 or year 2 to year 3, whatever it is, body transformations that KJ Buffin had.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because he's pretty lean.
Yep.
But he just absolutely just fills it up, man. And this is not some, small little private school league he plays. No, this is big boy basketball in Georgia, and Georgia is a fantastic high school basketball state. I think he was fifth in the state in scoring last year. I don't have it in front of me, but the dude can flat out score, and he's long. he runs the floor well. He sees the floor well. But yeah, I think that there were, some scuttlebutt on the board with, all right, should they really take this kid? Like they're in on others. And like you said, I think the staff really likes him as just an overall prospect and what he can bring. And he's not a guy that's going to have to come in like Matthew Morrell and just immediately have to contribute. He's going to be able to work his way into playing college basketball.
Yeah, he got 24.1 as a junior in Conyers.
That ain't bad.
Broke the 30-point mark 6 times, had 42 against Alcovey, led Heritage High School to the Sweet 16 in the postseason. They like this kid a bunch. Like you said, he's 6'5". He's got to get bigger, but they've got time. They're going to have a pretty deep roster for a little while.
8 rebounds a game too is big.
Yeah, he's real athletic. He's springy. And again, it might take a little time, and it might not, because sometimes guys like that get into a college program and boom. In addition to you just hit your growth spurt where you fill out.
You can score.
If you can score, you can score. It's going to be a matter of can he get strong, and usually they can. They Ole Miss is. I think their basketball strength and conditioning people do a great job. I really do. You can see transformation of bodies. I put up some videos today. Austin Crowley looks like a different dude. Now, he got sick last year, and that affected his weight. He got mono and dropped a bunch of weight and didn't feel good, didn't have energy, and then he lost confidence. And they're humans; they're not basketball machines, and it can you can slip. But he looks terrific, and so there's a lot there.
I'll say this on Ruffin. I posted it earlier this year on the board. There's a lot of concern about his size, and you said he's 5'10". That's on the very best day for Deshaun.
When the shoes are brand new,
right? Yeah, right out of the box. But I looked at they obviously Callaway dominated in-state. They didn't lose a game against anybody from the state of Mississippi, but they played a national schedule. They played in a lot of national showcase tournaments. So I went back and people might remember this post, but I looked at what he did against non-Mississippi competition. So outside of a 14-point performance against Curry High School from Illinois, in which they played them twice, Neal, and he scored 37 in the other game. He scored 37 against Lausanne from Memphis, which had Musa Cisse, the big 5-star. 35 on Wooddale, who had 4-star Jonathan Lawson. 31 against Moravian Prep from North Carolina, who had 4-star Shaquille Moore. 29, Leesville Road from North Carolina. They had another 4-star guard. 27 against Word of God Christian Academy from North Carolina. It's a big basketball powerhouse. They had a 5-star. He scored 27 on them. And then 24 against Briarcrest, who had Kennedy Chandler, the 5-star that's going to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So in games not only against elite competition, but also elite players who are also scorers, who he's going, that's that one-on-one type mindset in basketball where, you get a bucket, I get a bucket. He didn't blink. So he's gonna score. It's just, how can they use him on defense? How can they adjust things to help him out? Because he's going to be small, but I don't think he has any limitations as far as that goes. He's just people say it all the time, he's just a bucket getter. He's just going to go out there and he's going to score. And they love that about him.
I've heard some people compare him to a better Stephen Moody.
That's high praise.
Moody was a pretty good college player.
Yeah, I've seen the pro comp. A lot of people are using her is Isaiah Thomas, which he's a stud. But I will say this before I forget about Slatton. He reminds me a lot. You mentioned Austin Crowley. He reminds me of Austin Crowley. Can really shoot, but as you saw at Pavilion Madness, Crowley's got some hops. Slatton can jump too.
Yeah.
He get out in transition. He'll throw it down on somebody's head. We talk about scoring. He's already scored, Neal. He's already scored 1,800 points in 3 years in high school.
I've talked about this. I watch a lot of NBA, and if you watch NBA, you just see it more and more and more that you've got designated shooters on the floor.
Yeah.
The Heat got to the NBA Finals with Duncan Robinson as essentially just a shooter. He's not even a 3 and D because his D's not very good, but he's a guy that is damn near automatic from the perimeter. So you have to guard him, and it allows Jimmy Butler to penetrate. It stops people from helping off, because you help off on Butler and he dishes out to Robinson. That's in. He's going to bucket you to death. And you saw it in the playoffs. He'd get 30, 30, 30. And then people would guard him and he'd get 6, but Butler would get 31. So it was that kind of deal. So it works. It's just kind of where we are with basketball as the game becomes positionless. So we're going to switch to football in a minute, but I thought it was interesting yesterday that